All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Close, folks. First of all, we're 2 minutes early. We got a lot to cover. Second of all, we have tons of earnings after the bell, to name a few. Cheesecake Factory, Visa, MasterCard, Mondelez. We got a bunch of other companies. Cheesecake Factory and Starbucks, very important for the consumer. Starbucks, a lot more important as it's a bigger company. Visa, important for transactions, the financial system, all that stuff. So we got a lot to look into, a lot to get into. But the story of the day is that we are red. Story of the day is that we are red. Now, this morning, you had some good earnings, or at least you had SoFi that put up good earnings. Everyone else, UNH, Spotify, PayPal, kind of earnings. And SoFi popped. It hit 25 for the first time ever. And then it kind of dumped. And I don't think this is SoFi's fault. Honestly, I think this is just a function of the market. You've had a lot of that retail high beta momentum trade kind of die down. I mean, take a look at Open Door right here, 203. That's down 14%. At one point, it got to 188 on the day. NVIDIA sold off 1%. You got Tessie down 1.2. Palantir down about 1%. Robinhood down 2.4. I mean, it's one of those days where it kind of feels like we're hitting a short-term top. You never know what's going to happen just because it's July, it's August. We'll see kind of how August plays out. But it definitely feels like some exhaustion. And I don't think anyone can deny there's a bit of exhaustion. However, what also feels like could be happening right here outside of it being a short-term top, which even if that's the case, it's healthy, consolidates. We've seen that happen many times before in the past going into August, so it's not the craziest thing in the world. Jay Powell speaks tomorrow. Meta, Microsoft report tomorrow, and then Apple and Amazon are on Thursday. I think the street's just saying, you know what? We got some good news this morning. We had a bunch of stuff with China that we'll talk about in terms of updates. But overall, we're trying to figure out where this market's going to go. And we do not have enough confidence yet that the earnings are going to be that good from the companies that need to deliver. And so that, along with some potentially weird cracks in certain types of earnings in regards to Royal Caribbean and UNH and a few of the consumer companies that reported today, UPS, that's got people at least wondering. On aggregate, S&P 500 companies, 36% of them have reported. The expectation was a 6% earnings beat. We are at 6.7%. So we've had a decent earnings beat so far, but over the next couple of days, these are going to be the companies that matter the most, and that's ultimately going to determine what happens in this economy. Let's get an update right here on kind of what's going on with this retail momentum trade. I think this will give some context to a little bit of the sell-off we have today. And then in about 15 minutes, we will get into all the earnings that we have today.
The so-called speculative stocks, and whether it's a sign of something. What do you see?
Well, what we're seeing is just really retail traders driving another speculative surge this summer. But those risky bets, to your point, are showing a little bit of an unwind today. Open Door down about 10%. Here are the old speculative trades you're seeing in your GameStop and AMC. But Kohl's off 7%, 1-800 Flowers down 6%. Even the ARK ETF on pace for its fourth positive month, and best streak since August 2020 is down over 2% with its top holdings, Tesla, Coinbase, Roku, just all really under pressure today. Today's selling really follows huge runs earlier this month for names like American Eagle, Kohl's, or Open Door as an example, which was up almost 300% with little fundamental backing to really explain these swings just over the last little month. Online trading platform Interactive Brokers says this week's data, based on a 5-day moving average of orders, shows, quote, a relative return to normalcy with AMD, Oklo, HIMS, and Supermicro all seeing net selling activity just over the last 5 business days.
Which means retail's taking profits. That's what that means. For HIMS, which, by the way, got over 60 today. We'll talk about Novo in a second. But HIMS, Oklo, AMD, and SMCI seeing some net selling pressure on IBKR. That means retail's taking profits, probably because they're a little afraid about what's going to happen August and September. And if we get a juicier dip, they will take those profits and use it to buy the dip.
The question now, whether this really marks the end of summer's speculative fever, or maybe just another pause before the next wave of tech earnings and, of course, tomorrow's meeting with the Fed. Scott?
I think it's a key question.
So I think, and put in the chat, if you took profits on anything, you sold some covered calls. I mean, I understand that when you see your portfolio go down after only seeing it go up, people do want to take profits. I don't think that's crazy. PayPal right here down about 8.6% on the day. And that might be something that we're seeing in the context of retail. Bitmine, nasty day, still down 9%. They announced Stanley Druckenmiller participated in the PIPE. They announced that they're doing $1 billion share buyback, or at least they've authorized it. so far, stock really hasn't had momentum. Ethereum's been relatively flat today. SoFi, again, it looks like we're going to close hopefully above 22. Seems like that'll happen. We got 12 minutes left, 6.42%. I would not be discouraged if you're heavy in SoFi and you're seeing this price action. It is not SoFi's fault. It is honestly the macro today, just with everything kind of falling, except Google. A little bit of flight to safety right here. Google pushing 196. So I don't think this is indicative of SoFi. I think this is just rather, market decided to take a little bit of a sell-off, and that's why SoFi is getting hit. Wow, UNH down 7%. Last time I saw UNH, it was at 268. There you go, 263 on UNH. I mean, again, we'll talk about it later in the show. By the way, guys, no Technical Tuesday. Unfortunately, Jason cannot make it. He should be here next Tuesday. He's like redesigning his office, his HQ2. He's like opening up a second office. So he's been very, very busy, and he's like doing some work to put that up today. So unfortunately, we cannot do Technical Tuesday, but we got a bunch of stories to cover, so we'll be going through all that stuff. And also, honestly, technicals, as Jason will tell you, it just doesn't matter that much going into earnings. Like, it's hard for him to tell you the technicals of Hood when there's earnings tomorrow. So from that perspective, I think it's not too bad that we're missing this week, but we should be back next week. Spotify, nasty day, missed on advertising. That's down 11%. Rocket Lab down 3%. NVIDIA again, down 0.5%. SMCI was at 61 this morning. Now it's at 58. AMD holding on. This is how you know there's strength in AMD. It was at 182. Now it's at 177. So that's not too crazy. Amazon down 0.5%. UPS down 10%. JP Morgan down. Apple down. I mean, you just got a lot of names. Oracle was at all-time highs. Now that's struggling to stay green. Broadcom was at 301 this morning. Now it's at 297. It was just one of those days where the S&P is down almost at 0.5%, third of a percent. And you're starting to see some pain across the broader market as well, which is not that crazy to expect. Now, what are the updates in the context of macro? Also, by the way, if you haven't seen a tweet by me this morning, like for the past 7 hours, it's because Twitter's broken. I can't tweet. I'm getting no notifications. I can't tweet. I can't send post. It's just like, it's a mess. And it's not just me. It's like, if you type X not working on Twitter, you'll find tons of people just complaining. Let me know in the chat if anyone has not had their Twitter working today. So it's the longest I've ever gone without posting. I have like 7 posts ready to go. And every time I press post, it just doesn't work. I'm like, okay, so I guess I can't post. The last post I had was on SoFi. That went through in the morning. But yeah, I don't know what's going on with X today. They're having a lot of issues. And unfortunately, I have not been able to post at all today. Are you okay? I've been distracted all day because I had to drop my sister off at the airport. So I have been running around and stuff. But also, I figured out how to stream in New York tomorrow. I booked a WeWork. Apparently, you can pay $29 a day and book a WeWork. Pretty convenient, dude. I didn't know that. You can pay $30 and book an entire room in a WeWork for as long as you want. So yeah, I got a little WeWork for me tomorrow, and we'll be streaming the Fed meeting and Hood earnings through that WeWork. And then we'll keep going from there. SoFi, again, 8 cents versus 6 cents expected, 853 versus 804, 850,000 new members. Incredible quarter by Noto. Unfortunately, that one just got hit with the broader macro. And I think that's just a sign of today's price action more than anything else. Now, in terms of what's going on with China, so you did have Bessent come out and say we have started to get a better understanding of what deal is going on with China. Here's what he said this morning or this night for him after about 10 hours of negotiations.
The discussion centered on the two economies. We had a very in-depth report on them, on the Chinese economy. We gave a very detailed report on the U.S. economy. We talked about the trade deals that we were doing with other countries. We expressed our concern about Chinese overcapacity globally and what that might mean for this year, for the next few years. We expressed our concern for their purchases of sanctioned Iranian oil, which they buy about 90%. We also expressed our regret that we believe that they had sold Russia about $15 billion of dual-use technologies. But the overall tone of the meetings was very constructive. We don't want to decouple. We just need to de-risk with certain strategic industries, whether it's the rare earths, semiconductors, medicines, and we talked about what we could do together to get into balance within the relationships.
We'll see more with Bessent because he did an interview, and after all the earnings, we will get his take on some of the other stuff that went on with China. But essentially, he said, "Hey, The 90-day pause that the South China Morning Post reported on a Sunday, that's not official. They are going to be talking Bessent and Lutnick to Trump and Jameson Greer probably in the next 24 hours, and then give it a final confirmation on if we get the 90-day pause. I imagine we would, because no one wants to have insane tariffs by August 12th. And then on August 1st, one of the main quotes that you guys will hear in a bit is he was asked, hey, in 3 days, all these countries across the world are going to have to pay 30, 40, 50% tariffs. What does that do to the economy? And he said, look, they will definitely have to start paying on August 1st, but as long as they come to the table after August 1st, it will be a short-lived tariff, was essentially the vibe of what Bessent said today, which to me is rather bullish, because it basically means it's time to take out the tacos. I mean, Bessent and Trump are not serious about tariffing Cambodia by 40%. They just want to get some type of deal done, and hopefully if that deal does get done in the coming weeks, then it's not going to be that intense. All right, earnings, what do we got? We got Starbucks. Let's make our list right now. We have Mondelez. I'm sure I'm going to miss some, so you guys can help me out in the chat. And let me know which ones you guys own out of these. Visa, Cheesecake. What else? What else do we have? EA Sports, I think, is today. Bookings is today. And I think Marathon. Yes, Marathon. Oh, by the way, Grab. I got some pretty interesting updates to show you guys on Grab. The institutional holdings got updated, and there were some pretty heavy hitters that came in and increased their, not new positions, but they increased their positions by a lot. So I'll show you guys that in a second, and we'll get more updates on them, obviously, when they have earnings tomorrow as well. But we'll talk about that in a bit. Okay, so what else? What other earnings do we have? Logitech, they have earnings. Okay. Logitech. Look at them. They're all red on the day, all these companies. So it does seem like if they can deliver anything good, maybe we get some momentum. Teladoc, by the way, ARK's down 2%. ARK is trying to end July with its 4th green month in a row. Teladoc down 7% today. Wow. Marathon, by the way, down 3%. So that sort of risk on momentum obviously is dying off a little bit as we end out July, which is not too crazy. Qualcomm and ARM are not today. They should be tomorrow. So those are not. Is Qualcomm today? I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. Qualcomm. Yeah, Qualcomm and ARM are Wednesday, not today. So those aren't two that we have to look at. Okay, so real quick, this was the update on Grab. If you take a look at Whale Wisdom, that updates all the institutional holdings. Take a look at this, dude. You had William Blair at 8.7 million shares. They increased their position by 70%. And then you had Allen's Asset Management at 500,000 shares, increasing their position by 2,244%. So the big one here was William Blair taking a pretty healthy position. They have 21 million shares. They added another 8.7 million. And then if you filter it by the newest ones to join, not just the ones that have added, you also have some pretty big firms that, and these reports are as of July 29th. So literally as of the past, like today, and as of the past couple of days. You had one firm, White Oak Capital Pie, at 330,000 shares. And then you had another firm today, S-Bank Fund Management, at 320,000 shares as well. So you are starting to see the tooth. So it's already 82% holdings. I'll send this link in the chat for anyone who wants to look at it. Just begin to add a lot more, or at least initiate a position. And it kind of potentially is signaling what we're going to see on earnings. Maybe they're coming into the stock before earnings. We've seen a lot of weird price action. Maybe today we will see weird price action again on Grab. After hours every day, it tends to pump and then dump going into the morning. So tomorrow, after we get earnings, we'll get a better picture of what's going on. Tesla right here down about 1.3%. American Airlines down 1.4%. Let's look at the earnings that we have today. We got 3 minutes until the market opens. PayPal down 8.4%. We had their earnings. UNH down 7%. We had their earnings. And then Spotify, that's down 11.4% after getting their earnings. UPS as well, we had their earnings. That's down 10%. Boeing, which had a type of earnings. I mean, you had a little bit of a flexible room on guidance. Boeing as well, down 5%. Grab's PE is 907. I would not worry that much about the PE. Remember, you have a growth stock. You have a high PE because they only do 10 million of net income. As they grow that net income and as they overall grow profitability, EBITDA, et cetera, that PE is going to come down dramatically. So, I mean, if you're using PE as the basis to invest in a stock, it's very hard to buy any growth stock. But the PE, I mean, if 80% of the float was afraid of the PE, 80% of the float, 82% to be exact, would not be owning the stock institutionally. right? Like PE is just not the core metric that at least I would care about when it comes to this, as long as they can put up the growth. And if they put up the growth, that PE is going to start to come down. S&P 500 right here, 635. We got 2 minutes into the close. Meta 701. Let me do a real quick poll of the top 4 names we're looking at, and let's see which one you guys think will outperform. So here's the question: which one outperforms? We have Visa, Cake, Starbucks, and then Marathon. I'm going to take a guess, literally a guess, because I'm gonna guess. Dude, I actually don't know which one. I don't know, dude. I would literally be guessing, but I'm gonna go with Cheesecake. Literally guessing. I should be saying Visa because I have Visa in my ETF, and I hope Visa does well. But Cheesecake has had a ton of momentum. Now it's up a lot going into the print, so that could hurt it. Cheesecake, well, it's down 4% today, which is not too bad. But yeah, don't know much about Marathon, and definitely don't know that much about Starbucks either, although Starbucks has had a little bit of recovery from that low at $70 back in April. All right, folks, here we go. Yeah, the TikTok trends. I do know that about Cheesecake, so maybe that's encouraging more people to come and buy. UNH already happened in the morning. We'll review some of the companies that report in the morning, but these are the 7 that we're looking at after the bell. We should be getting results pretty quickly in the next 30 seconds. And then we have a ton of other stories we'll talk about. Again, unfortunately, we can't do Technical Tuesday. Jason is busy, but also the technicals, they're just not that relevant going into earnings season. So hopefully next week we will get those technicals, and we will keep going from there for Technical Tuesday. All right, Tuesday, July 29th, 4 p.m. The stock market is now closed. All right, we are closed. Let's take a look at some of these stocks before we get into it. Tesla right here, 321, down about 1.35%. Pretty much everything took a hit today. Open Door down 12%. SoFi, look, 2240. If you're a long-term shareholder, you cannot be mad about that quarter. You can be annoyed at the price action, but you just can't be that upset because that was a monster quarter by Noto, and they deserve all the praise in the world. Also, Noto was on CNBC, so we'll listen to him in a bit and see what he had to say because I did not watch that yet either. Snapchat right here, down about 4% on the day. Disney was down 0.5%. United Airlines was down 1.93%. Meta hit 700 on the close. Netflix down 0.5%. Roku down 4%. Block down 3%. Nike down 1%. You have the NASDAQ down about 0.38%. Goog actually closed green, and it's almost like people sold off some of their spec and they went into Google, which is not too bad. 196 on the Googs. UNH down 7.35%. Spotify down 11.24%. Palantir 156, that was down about 1%. And then Robinhood down about 3.23%. 103.32 on Hoodie. And that's how we got the market close ending out. Palo Alto Networks, there was a big deal with them. They are in talks to be acquiring a company for $20 billion. That's why their stock is down 5.2%. That is okay, because usually when you offer $20 billion, your stock tends to, the suitor of the acquisition tends to take a little bit of a stock drop. But cybersecurity seems to be consolidating, which is necessary because you got 2 big players, Palo Alto and CrowdStrike. You had Google already acquire Wiz for $32 billion last year. So it makes sense that you're seeing some of this consolidation. UPS right here down about 10.5%. Nvidia again down about 1% on the day. AMD hit 182, closed at 177. Can't be that mad about that. Broadcom as well, 297 on the close, did hit 302 this morning, which is not too bad. TSM took a little bit of a hit at 241 as that one fell 0.5% on the day. All right, let's see what earnings we get. We should be getting it very soon. Again, the reason for the dump today, in my opinion, is fear of JPOW and earnings that are coming out over the next 2 days. There's going to be very, very important earnings in terms of Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Google, or Amazon and Apple. And I think the market just wants to see them perform in order to see if this can continue holding up. Also, again, it was a great July. The S&P's up 3% in July. Like, I mean, just for those asking, well, why do we dump? It's like, well, why do we pump? You know, there was definitely a little bit of frothiness in July. People are taking some profits. I think that's very healthy. That's normal. That's not concerning. And that's just part of the market ultimately consolidating and hopefully making the next leg up going into the end of the year. Okay, I don't see any numbers yet. We should be getting them soon. Teladoc has a 1% candle after going down 8% on the day. Let me see if we have any actual numbers. Nope, no numbers yet. They should be coming up probably around 405 to 410. And then we'll get a better understanding of what's going on here. Grab is tomorrow. 8 p.m. tomorrow. Logitech. All right, we got Logitech. Here we go. 1.15 billion versus 1.12. Adjusted EPS 126. So they beat on the top and the bottom. EPS, not a bad beat. Operating income 202 million versus 165. EPS 98 cents. That is decent. Logitech, that stock is up a little bit. Teladoc so far, best candle, up almost 2%. Electronic Arts, that's up almost 0.5%. Visa, Starbucks, those are the main companies we're looking for. No big move on them yet. Logitech is up. Fubo went negative today. I didn't even look at Fubo. I know it was up 16% in the morning. Yeah, it basically lost the entire pump. Royal Caribbean, too. I didn't see what they said on their earnings, but that thing took a 5% hit. And I think they had from what I understand, they had a pretty damn good quarter in terms of bookings for cruises. So there's got to be something deeper that got the street to get upset about that. Marathon right here, a little bit of a candle, up about 1%. And we are still waiting for Starbucks, Visa, and Cheesecake, which are the biggest ones. All right, booking. Shout out to Cactus Jack. He is our own AK Media Bloomberg terminal right here. Q2 revenue 6.8 versus 6.56. That's a beat. Adjusted EPS 55.40 versus 50.20. That is a beat. Now, this stock is $5,000 a share, $182 billion market cap. That's why it doesn't get a ton of volume. It's also not super volatile. That's down about 2%. But it looks like they beat on the top and the bottom. It looks like they beat on the top and the bottom, which is not bad. We got about 1 minute, and then we should get the rest of these numbers. Again, this is bookings right here. And we'll keep going from there. Strategy has closed their $2.52 billion IPO on their new preferred shares, STRC. Oh, wow. They already bought. Oh, shoot. Oh, so they bought 21,000 Bitcoin. Oh, usually Saylor does it. He announces it the next Monday. Yeah, wow. There you go. They bought 21,000 Bitcoin at 117 a pop. Dude, this guy. This is top blasting forever. He does not care. Whatever price is Bitcoin, he wants it, and he does not care. Starbucks down 2%. Starbucks down 2%. There she goes. Nope, it's 4% now. It is 4%. That is red. Teladoc's up 7. Starbucks down 4. Put in the chat if you own Starbucks. That one is a little nasty right here as we're seeing this one get hit with a red candle. And we'll see if we can get some of these results and take a look at what's going on. Marathon, now Starbucks recovering. Wow, 4% to basically break even. Let's see if that holds. Marathon is green 2%. Marathon's green 2%. Starbucks is still struggling, but it's kind of holding on. Still struggling, but kind of holding on. Okay, Starbucks adjusted EPS 50 cents versus 65 cents. That's a miss. Net revenue 9.5 versus 9.29. That's a beat. Beat on revenue, missed on EPS. Beat on revenue, missed on EPS. EPS is the stuff the street cares about. That's your profit. Operating margin 9.9% versus 10.1%. All right, so is a miss and a beat. A miss and a beat. I think we got to get deeper into some of their subscriber numbers to see what the street thinks. That initial negative 4% was probably off the 15-cent EPS beat or miss. And now it's kind of recovering. Marathon right here up 2%. Teladoc's up 8%, kind of recovering everything that it lost this morning. We'll try to get those earnings in a second. Visa, slightly green as well. Slightly green. All right, we got Mondelez. Q2 adjusted EPS 73 versus 68. That's a beat. Net income 641 million. That's also a beat. Fiscal year revenue growth of 5% and margin of 32.7%. Mondelez doesn't tend to be as volatile. $90 billion company. That one's basically down 1%, but you got 2 beats across the board. Visa's up a little bit. Cheesecake's up 0.5%. EA's up a little bit. Bookings, now that's down 4%. Marathon's up 2%, and Starbucks down 1%. Down 1%. All right, let's take a look at Starbucks right here, get a little bit more coverage, and then we'll keep going from there.
$500 million. That's better than the 9.31 billion estimated by analysts. EPS 50 cents adjusted. We're not going to be comparing that to estimates due to an 11-cent charge from a non-recurring significant investment in its recent leadership experience conference.
So that means they only missed by 4 cents if there's an 11-cent charge. So that's maybe why the stock recovered after it fell 4%.
non-discrete item. Same-store sales down 2%. That's a bit worse than the 1.3% drop the street was expecting. The sixth quarter of sales contractions in a row. North America sales also down 2%. A notable shift, though, in China, with same-store sales increasing 2%. That's its second home market, as a reminder. The company says that although U.S. transaction comps were down 4%, this is the third consecutive quarter of improving transaction comps in the U.S. That evidence there that it's back to Starbucks plan is working. As you can see, the stock is lower by just under 0.5% here. And one quick thought here from Starbucks CEO Brian Nichols saying, while our financial results don't yet reflect all the progress we've made, the signs are clear. We are gaining momentum. And guys, their conference call is coming up at 4:15. So we'll bring you more highlights throughout the hour. Back over to you.
All right, that's Starbucks. Visa has a beat on the top and the bottom. 298 versus 285 on EPS. That's a beat by 5%. Revenue 10.1 versus 9.85. That's a beat by 3%. EPS is up 23% year over year. Revenue's up 14%. I mean, the street doesn't love it, but the street definitely doesn't hate it. Visa right here, down 2%. I guess the street hates it more than they love it right here. It did spike for a little bit. Then it went down. It got to 357. Now it's at 345. Marathon's up 2. We'll get Marathon's earnings in a second, and then we'll see from there what we've got going on. Marathon, all right. Revenue 238 versus 224. That's a beat. EPS 184 versus 19 cents negative that the street expected. That's a hell of a beat. That's probably because of their Bitcoin, though, right? Because now you're allowed to count the Bitcoin gains as the FASB accounting to show up as like actual net income, if I'm not wrong. So that could be the reason why they beat on EPS as well as they did. Marathon right there up about 1.5%. EA, that's up 1%. Mondelez now down 3%. And Starbucks is still basically flat as we get these earnings. Here is what we have from Visa, and then we'll keep going from there.
And bottom line is they continue to boost payments traffic on their network. EPS of $2.98 a share adjusted is 13 cents higher than the estimate. Revenue of $10.2 billion is about $360 million higher than the estimate. Key drivers for Visa in the quarter, that's an 8% jump in payments volume and a 12% jump in total cross-border volume. Stock, last I checked, was up, but now it's down a little bit less than 1%. Back to you guys.
All right. Hugh, thank you. Paul Hickey, I'm going to come back to you.
All right. So far, not anything nothing too crazy in terms of what we're getting on earnings. Mondelez down 3%. Starbucks up green now after being down 4%. And then Cheesecake Factory, we don't have those earnings yet, but that's flat. The biggest mover we have is Logitech and Teladoc. Marathon's fighting for 2% green. Visa's down 2% and Starbucks is up 1%. I mean, you're not seeing a lot of movement on those two. This headline did come out during the day. Meta took another person from Apple. Bowen Zhang is joining Meta Superintelligence team as per Bloomberg. And it looks like Meta continues to find momentum by poaching every significant person when it comes to AI, which is kind of wild. By the way, there was another headline from Bloomberg. Mira Murati, who was the CTO of I was about to say Cheesecake Factory, the CTO of OpenAI. She left OpenAI 8 months ago, started her own company, and someone at her company, Thinking Machines, was offered $1 billion from Zucks. This is according to Bloomberg. Now, this could be wrong reporting, but based on the sources they have, one of those offers was more than $1 billion over a multi-year span, and they said no. They said no. They said no to $1 billion from Zucks. I don't know what the heck Mira Murati is creating. She raised a couple $1 billion and there's no product. So I guess people, whatever vision she told the VCs, they bought into it. But Starbucks now up about 3%. The fact that Zucks is giving out those $1 billion offers, either it's going to be super bullish for Meta tomorrow or it's going to be super bearish for their operating margins. But we are going to see Visa right here down about 2%. Starbucks now going the opposite. It was down 4%. Now it's up 3%. Starbucks trying to gain some momentum while Visa continues to go down. You guys are saying STX tanked. I don't have this on the list. This is Seagate Technology. That is down 7%, $32 billion company. I've heard of this company, but I forgot what they do. They're a storage company. Seagate Technology, leading provider of bytes globally. Okay. They sell a ton of storage. If I'm not wrong, this is the website. I will pull up their earnings, but it looks like they took a little bit of a hit right here. Hard drives. Okay, they sell hard drives. Okay, well, let's look at their earnings. They beat by 6% on EPS, beat by 1% on revenue. I don't know. The stock's down. EPS is up 1.5x year over year. Revenue's up 30% year over year. This stock going into the print, was it up a lot? Oh, yeah, that's why dude, it was up 76%. Good. This is what I'm saying, bro. Over the next couple of days, if we see some nasty 8 to 10% declines after hours on stocks that are up a lot going into the print, you just can't, you can't be that upset, right? If those stocks are up a lot, they probably had a good quarter. As we can see, EPS is up 147% year over year, revenue's up 30%. That's a pretty damn good quarter to me for any company. But Street doesn't love it because they probably just wanted more. Seagate right here down about 8%. Cheesecake, we still don't have their numbers yet. Starbucks holding 2%. And Marathon now trying to get above 3%. Spotify, is that one tanking after hours again? No, Spotify has always been down. So Spotify flat after hours, but that was down 11% on the day. Again, we talked about it in the morning. They missed on advertising. Their margins took a little bit of a hit. The concern I had from Spotify is, wait a second, if you're missing on advertising, does that mean people don't want to advertise on Spotify, or does that mean that there's not enough advertising demand? I don't really know the answer to that question yet, but that is the concern, I think, on a Spotify. But the other reason their operating margins were down is because of stock-based comp, which is a one-time expense, so that's not that big of a deal. The advertising thing, maybe it was just bad execution on their part for advertising, or maybe there's a macro thing. But I'm going to go through the transcript and see exactly what Daniel X said about that. SoFi right here down another 1% after hours. Robinhood, by the way, down another 0.24% after hours. Everything's still not really holding up after hours. Palantir's down a little bit. AMD's down a little bit. I mean, you're starting to see a little bit of pain across all the names. Broadcom's down another 1/3% after hours as well. Meta reports tomorrow. After 4 p.m. Lending Club, did they have earnings today? Lending Club is up 11%. They had to have earnings today. I did not know that. Let me see if I can get their earnings, but it looks like they probably did have earnings if that's what we are seeing. Okay, let's pull this up. By the way, Teladoc, we didn't look at that yet, so let me pull up Teladoc right here. This one, the reason they're up is they beat by 27% on EPS, 19 versus 26 cents of a loss, and then 1% on revenue, 631 versus 622. EPS is up 96% year over year. Revenue is down 2% year over year. I don't have Cheesecake Factory yet. They might be reporting later, so we don't have that one yet. But we should be seeing some more of these soon as we get into it. Let's take a look at Mondelez, and then we'll keep going from there.
Adjusted versus estimates of 68 cents, revenue of 8.98 billion, just ahead of estimates of 8.84 billion. But the stock is lower by about 2.5%, with organic growth falling short of estimates. Organic growth of 5.6%, lower than the street account estimate of 6%. Gross margin also below estimates. And guidance does not include tariffs, but the company did affirm its full year guidance towards organic revenues being up 5% and adjusted EPS being down 10% on a constant currency basis. About that guidance, they say this is due to an unprecedented cocoa cost inflation weighing on results there. They do say they're confident in their ability to deliver against our commitments amid a challenging environment. The stock down about 2% in after hours. Spec.
Okay, Cheesecake Factory. You guys are saying it's out. Let me see if I can find it. Up, here we go. To beat, 955 versus 948 on Rev. EPS looks like it came in line with expectations, 114. Are we green on the cheese of the cakes? We are green, about 1.3, nothing crazy. 2% now. You're getting a little bit of love right there. But it looks like they beat on the top and the bottom. Or at least they came in line on the bottom and they beat on the top. Cheesecake Factory is indeed green. Is Grab moving after hours? Grab, once again, is moving after hours. All right, 536. That's up about 1% after hours. Starbucks right here still up 2.4. Bookings is still down 2%. Marathons up 4. Logitech up 4. Seagate down 8. Lending Club up 11. Teladoc up 4. And then Cheesecake up 1.69. Up 1.69. Visa down 2. Okay, so down 2% is not crazy for Visa. It's a very large company, almost a $700 billion company. The problem with Visa, and I didn't know this before picking them in my stock draft, is that the entire financial system is about to be flipped upside its head because of Ethereum. eToro announced today that they're bringing out stocks on the blockchain with tokenization, which is going to be running on Ethereum. Stablecoins, again, continuing to maintain momentum. I still believe Visa and MasterCard should benefit from that. That shouldn't be like super, super competitive with them. But nonetheless, you know, if the street thinks there is some competition, that could be what's hurting those stocks as well. And that's why we're getting some pain. Freshworks, that had earnings today. Okay, let me check. Did not know about that one. That is up 2.8%. We'll see if we can get their numbers. Are they a restaurant or are they a grocery store? I'm pretty sure they're a restaurant. They're like Sweetgreen, right? No, they're a software company. That was the worst attempt to rationalize the name Freshworks. I was like, oh, it's like Sweetgreen. It's like you go in and you get fresh food. Like that's of course. No, it's IT customer service. Dude, what type of name is Freshworks? Like, I think Whole Foods. As soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, Whole Foods. That's like a competitor. Okay, we'll try to get their numbers. Freshworks. Goodness gracious, dude. EPS, they beat 18 cents. Revenue, they beat 204 million. That is up 17% year over year. EPS is up 125% year over year. This is a relatively smaller software company, or at least to me. I don't know about them. How much is market cap? Yeah, 4 billion. I would say it's a small company, but that's up 2%. That's up 2%. Marathon now really making a move, up 5% right here. Cheesecake now up 2.4%, and then Starbucks up 3%. Yeah, I'm thinking of the delivery meal service. Yeah, exactly. That's what it sounded like. Freshworks. I don't know why Webull tanked today, dude. I don't know why Webull tanked. Yeah, down 12%. What happened? I mean, the only thing that comes to imagination is they dumped shares. They have 1 billion shares, $1 billion worth of shares, 75 million shares that they can dump, and maybe today they decided to dump. Unless someone else has another headline for me. Otherwise, I don't see why. Teradyne also have earnings today. Okay, I don't know what Teradyne is. I'm not going to try to guess because I'll probably be wrong. TER, $14 billion company. I'm going to guess that Teradyne is... I can't even think of something, dude. I literally can't think of it. So another software company. All right, there you go. Another software company. I had no idea what to guess on that. Okay, TER, ticker symbol. Let's see what they've got and try to get their earnings as well. These guys are up after hours by about 2%. Let me see if I can pull up their numbers, but looks like the street likes it at least a little bit. Robotics automation. Okay. It looks like that's what we got. BMNR. Let me just check that after hours. Then I'll get those numbers. BMNR. Wow. Still falling after hours. Down another 0.5%. Dude, it's kind of weird because they announced Stanley Druckenmiller and they announced the $1 billion buyback. And I think they expected people to be happy and like excited about those two things. Starbucks up 3.4. And that's not what you had. That's not what you had. Dude, Grab is doing the same. Wow, dude. It continues to do the same thing it did yesterday after hours. I don't know. I don't know why it's doing it, but it's doing it. Up a little bit right there after hours. Starbucks right here, up 3.3%. All right, Marathon. Let me get the actual Marathon numbers. We looked at the headline, but obviously something else is happening here that's getting the street excited on Marathon. Real quick, before Marathon, here's Booking Holdings as well.
$55.4. The street was expecting 50.22, and revenues of 6.8 billion, where the street was expecting 6.6 billion. Guidance for the full year largely in line. Gross bookings 46.7 billion. That's a beat. Adjusted EBITDA of 2.4 billion. That's a beat. Room nights of 309 million against the expectation of 304. So that's a beat as well. But the company says that though they're seeing steady travel demands, that the comps in the third quarter, especially in September, are likely to be higher. There you're seeing the shares lower at this point, down by 1.5%. I had to step closer because I'm not wearing my glasses. Morgan.
Contested Brewer.
Okay, so that's what we got on Marathon. That's what we got on bookings. This is what we have on Marathon. So again, we covered the 1,000% beat on EPS. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's due to their Bitcoin appreciating. I think that's why they beat that heavily. And then revenue is up 64% year over year. That's a beat by 7%. I think that's due to Bitcoin. Now, MicroStrategy has earnings, I think, on Thursday. MicroStrategy is also going to have a ridiculous EPS beat because of their Bitcoin on the balance sheet going up. So I don't know if the street's going to look past it and say that's an accounting thing, or they're going to be like, holy crap, those are amazing numbers. Marathon's up 6%. Now, Marathon was at 19 last week. So it is trying to recover to get back to those levels. But it's at 1750 right here. Maybe MSTR does the same thing. Starbucks right here, 3%. And then Bitcoin during the day, 117. Bitmine getting a little bit of green after hours. Grab at 537. Hoodies up a little bit. Royal Caribbean's up a little bit. Broadcom's down a little bit. And then where is SoFi? SoFi is down another 1% after hours. SEC approves in-kind redemptions for Bitcoin and Ethereum ETFs. Okay. I don't exactly know what in-kind redemptions is, so let's learn that right now because we have AI overviews. In-kind redemptions in the context of investments like mutual fund and ETFs refers to a process where investors receive their investments value in the form of securities or assets rather than cash. This differs from a standard cash redemption where the investor receives their monetary value of their investment. For ETFs, authorized participants can redeem ETF shares in kind by exchanging them for a basket of the underlying securities that make up that ETF. This mechanism allows for efficient creation and redemption of ETF shares without needing to sell assets for cash. Okay, so it seems like that will allow more institutional swapping and obviously redemption of the underlying securities that make up the ETFs, aka Bitcoin and Ethereum, which is why that headline seems rather bullish. Cash and IBIT shares and get real Bitcoin. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so that, I mean, it's not like some massive game changer to me, but it definitely will make the ETF buying process for some of these institutional investors easier, especially if they're used to in-kind redemption when it comes to all the other types of ETFs that they engage in. By the way, Granny Shots, Tom Lee's ETF, $2 billion under management today. They have $2 billion AUM. So that one did hit some momentum. Bitmine right here, up a little bit after hours. Royal Caribbean is flat, Robin it up 0.23. Any effect on Bitcoin is that having? No, nothing too crazy. Still 117.6. 117.6. Yes, very bullish for Galaxy, 100%. GLXY, that one also, wow, that one down 10% on the day. Is there a headline on that? The Bitcoin ETFs didn't fall that much. IBIT was down less than 0.5% or a little bit above 0.5%. So there might have been something there. Palo Alto up a little bit after hours, and then NVIDIA again, a little red after hours as well. Hemi Hims and Novo. We didn't even look at Novo this entire close. Novo, wow, still ended down 21% of the day. So it was quite ironic, right? That Hims went above 60, still moving after hours after dealing with all the crap that Novo gave them for selling compounded versions of Wegovy. And now Novo comes out, destroys their profit outlook for 2025 and says, hey, these compounders are ruining our ability to gain any profit in the market. It's like, all right, cool. Down 20%. So very ironic that Hims is almost at the price it was at when they got hit by the Novo controversy. And Novo is down 20%. So Hims took a 20% hit. Hims actually took a 34% hit. And that one has basically recovered. Novo right here, down 20%. AMD after hours, that one as well, basically flat after closing the day at 177. Yes, I still own all my Hims. I will tell you guys if I sell it. I have no issue saying I sold it to buy something else. I just genuinely have not touched that position. My average is $55.85, and it's just there. So I don't know what we're going to see going into earnings. I expect it to be a good earnings, but last time it was good earnings, it just wasn't a great earnings, and the stock fell 10%. So maybe that happens again. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Hims continues to go higher, but that investment is kind of just like stuck there for me. I'm not DCAing or doing anything that big with the position. 700 shares. 700 shares is what I have for Hims. Okay, Noto. So we didn't look at Noto yet. Let me pull this up right here. I didn't watch this yet either. And then we have to see Bessent as well that gave an interview to CNBC. But let me pull up Noto and see what he said. Again, stock price, I wouldn't get too concerned about that. The entire market took a little bit of a dip towards the end of the day. Overall, 44% revenue growth. Hard to be super bearish on that, especially if they can continue gaining some margins that will lead them to bring a lot of that revenue to the bottom line. Here we go. This is Noto on SoFi earnings today.
More important right now?
Well, I'd say it's the combination of everything, Carl. We just reported 44% year-over-year revenue growth to $858 million with 29% operating margins. A lot of investors look at something called the rule of 40, which is revenue growth plus your EBITDA or operating income margin. And we hit 70 today, well in excess of 40. So we're seeing the growth of a technology company and the profitability of a financial company in one quarter, but it's actually happened for the last 13 quarters. And the thing that's really driving it is our diverse platform of businesses. Our strategy is to be a one-stop shop, which means we have to have products across borrow, save, spend, invest, and protect. And because we have that broad array of products, we're able to really diversify our growth and put capital in a lot of different areas to grow. This quarter actually saw exceptional growth across all three of our businesses, and that's how we got to 44% growth, which is our highest year-over-year growth rate in the last 2 years, with really strong profitability at 29% margins.
Yeah, we can look at the chart and you can see shares near, I think, at just about a 4-year high, going back to November of 21. Over a 1 month now, Anthony, your shares are outpacing Robinhood's, and I wonder if that is the kind of showdown you expect to get talked about a little bit more.
This is a juicy question. I didn't know they asked him head-to-head about Hoodie. Let's see what he says.
You know, we are a very different company. We have a very different strategy, especially when
that's probably that's the politically correct answer. He's taken the high road. I think Vlad would take the high road as well. But the media definitely is putting them against each other, even though technically they are fundamentally different companies.
It comes to invest is one product that's important to SoFi. Our formula is that we're helping Americans achieve their financial outcomes that will help them live the American dream. And in order to do that, they have to get their money right. And the formula for that's quite simple. They have to spend less than they make and invest the rest. And when they invest, they have to take a long-term orientation. We try to educate investors to do dollar cost averaging in a diversified way. And our Invest service actually offers a broad range of products. Not only does it offer single stocks and fractional shares, we also offer IPOs, ETFs, automated investing through robo accounts, and our ETFs and robo has a couple of award-winning products. And then we also do private investments and alternative assets. You can invest in venture capital, private credit, private real estate, public long-short hedge funds, as well as private growth equity funds. That broad diversification is really focused on long-term investment and the concept of making sure you're spreading your money out to achieve long-term returns.
Well, why are you talking about crypto? Isn't that one of the reasons why the stock has shot up so much, because of the opportunity here for you?
Yeah, I think the reason why the stock is showing the strength is that things like crypto, the recent IPOs from fintech companies, have caused investors to come back to the sector and reevaluate it, given the tremendous growth opportunities that are ahead of us. I mean, we're driving 44% year-over-year revenue growth, and we're just starting to benefit from 2 technology super cycles. We're at an unprecedented point in time where AI and blockchain and crypto will fundamentally change the financial services industry. So that's causing people to come back and look at our company. Some of the recent fintech IPOs have caused them to come back and look at SoFi. And they look over the last 13 quarters at our revenue growth and our margins, and they see that we've beaten the rule of 40 for 13 consecutive quarters, which is what they look for software companies to do, not a fintech company or a financial services company.
What about just general view of your consumer right now? Credit quality, consumer lending, and what that means for the coming months?
Yeah, we are benefiting from unprecedented demand across all of our products. Our lending products are benefiting from people looking to lower their cost of debt. They have run their credit card balances up, and they're paying 24+% interest. They can refinance with us at 12 to 13% interest with no prepayment penalties, no refinancing costs if they want to refinance. So that product is benefiting. We're starting to see a pickup in student loan refinancing. We're also seeing really strong momentum behind SoFi Money, which we've had for 3 years. We opened the bank 4 years ago, and we've had unprecedented growth there, and that continues. The product is very differentiated. We give 3.8% interest, no fees. It's the only place you can send money via Zelle. You can send money via email, via phone number, or you could do self-serve wire transfers. In addition to that, we have our credit card offering as well as home loans. So the combination of those things, we're seeing really strong demand for the consumer, great credit performance, and the spending in our SoFi Money product is also strong.
There you go. That's what you got from Noto. That is what you got from Noto. Again, I think it was a good quarter. Is it that breakout quarter that the street fundamentally recognizes and re-rates the company? I don't know. But it was a good quarter. And ultimately, time will tell how strongly the street feels the broader growth aspect of SoFi is going to be there to be able to continue giving it some more momentum. Visa right here getting hammered down 3%. That is not going to help me in the stock draft. Let me pull that up and get an update on that. But Visa is getting hit right here. Those earnings weren't that bad, dude. Didn't look that crazy. I guess there's something deeper. A lot of these, I'm going to go through a lot of the transcripts over the next couple of days and try to see exactly what these companies are saying about the consumer and, you know, where they think their route is going when it comes to this brand new financial system. Matt is up 18%. Tanner's up 10. I'm up 8.4. Steve's up 1.7. Chris is down 1.59. That's really UNH. That's causing a lot of the pain for him. Visa was the highest voted in the poll. Okay, I closed the poll without even checking because that was my mistake. But I guess everyone thought Visa would pump, and it didn't. My guess was Cheesecake. Cheesecake is up 3.2. Starbucks is the winner, though. Starbucks now up a full 4.3%. Let me go on their website and get their actual earnings so we can look at some deeper numbers. But Starbucks seems to be the one that is winning. Visa's not a bad pick, though. Visa would have been my second pick after Cheesecake. Visa is a phenomenal company, almost $700 billion company. It's just, I think the street's trying to figure out how exactly do they navigate a brand new crypto-oriented ecosystem when it comes to digital finance. Starbucks was the lowest voted. Okay, so people were bearish Starbucks. I will not be on at 8 p.m. tomorrow for grab earnings. Unfortunately, I will not be there live. I wish I could. I really can't. But we will obviously cover it the next day on the market open, and we'll go deep into it. I just can't be live tomorrow night at 8 p.m. So we'll go deeper and try to see what's going on. All right, Starbucks. Here we go. Again, revenue $9.5 billion. It's up 4% year over year. Brian Nickel, the guy from Chipotle, he says, we fixed a lot and done the hard work and the hard things to build a strong operating foundation. And based on my experience of turnarounds, we are ahead of schedule. In 2026, we'll unleash a wave of innovation that fuels growth, elevates customer service, and ensures everyone experiences the very best of Starbucks. We're building back a better Starbucks experience and a better business. North America revenue was up 2% year over year. Operating income was down to $918 million compared to $1.4 billion last time. Same-store sales also basically flat year over year. And their operating margins are also down by 200 bips, which is not the best. But again, Starbucks is in a potential turnaround mode. So you're going to have some growing pains. Do they not disclose the subscriber numbers anymore? Because they used to do that. Yeah, I don't think they do that. They used to disclose how many people pay for that like monthly access to the app. It was like 34 million a couple of quarters ago. And I think with the new CEO, they stopped disclosing that. Because that is also, it's something to take a look at least in terms of, you know, how many people are using it every month. It looks like they are not disclosing that. Cheesecake Factory, that one's still up 4%. Let me pull up Cake Stock and try to get to their IR website and see what we got going on here. I know this is a big stock for Jeremy. This is one that he's liked for a while. Okay, let's see. Cheesecake Factory. Same-store sales fell again. Yes, that was one of the reasons why potentially you could see some weakness in Starbucks, but the stock is up 4%. Cheesecake Factory revenue $955 million versus $904. Net income $54.8 million. Net EPS was $1.14. CEO says we delivered another quarter of strong results with record high revenue, continued margin expansion, and profitability that exceeded our guidance. The Cheesecake Factory restaurants led our performance with comparable sales finishing over our expectations, reflecting healthy consumer demand for the delicious, memorable dining experiences we provide. I love that he said delicious. Our restaurant teams executed exceptionally well, delivering year-over-year improvements in labor productivity, food efficiency, and wage management, hourly staff and manager retention, and guest satisfaction scores, driving solid earnings growth. I'm going to go to their transcript, and I'm going to see if they mention AI and if Cheesecake Factory is at all an AI story. Because maybe it is. Maybe it is. All right, Cheesecake Factory, not bad. I mean, they're putting up the numbers. The stock is already up a lot year to date. So the fact that they're even up 4% after hours is not too bad. Teladoc right here up 4%. Marathon's up 4%. Starbucks now up almost 5%. Mondelez down 3.7%. And Visa down 3%. Let's get to Bessent. He's in Stockholm. Let's see what he has to say about what's going on with China.
Does each side make a speech to each other? Bring us in the room.
Well, there's a lot of pre-game, so a lot of preparation on both sides in terms of what do we want to talk about, what would we like to accomplish with the Chinese. There were 75 of them in their delegation, 15 of us.
Wow.
We start out in a very large room, probably 12 or 15 on each side of the table. As you said, there tends to be a bit of speech reading, so there's a little back and forth on that. Then there's a discussion. We have various topics, but the real work gets done. We break down into smaller groups of 2 and 2. So Ambassador Jameson, myself, it was Vice Premier Hu Feng, and then they actually had two, a Deputy Trade Minister and a Deputy Finance Minister, and then the translators. And then Vice Premier Feng and I spent some time alone with the translators.
And do you go into breakout rooms to discuss among just the American side what the Chinese have proposed and then come back, or is it all done in the same room together?
Well, Ambassador Greer and I have been doing a lot of trade deals, and we've done a lot of prep in advance. This was our third meeting with this Chinese team, so we built up some level of personal rapport. We also, I can tell you that London built on Geneva, Stockholm built on London and Geneva. So we have an arc that is getting better. We've been able to, this meeting, we were able to discuss more of the big economic frameworks, whereas Geneva and London were much more specific meetings.
I think the market really expected that what we would see here is an extension of that August 12th deadline. That was sort of a low bar for these talks. People thought if they can kick the can another 90 days and keep the truce in place that happened back in London, that's basically a win for Stockholm. Did you agree to kick that can down the road, or is that pending President Trump's approval?
Well, it's pending President Trump's approval. He has final say on all the trade deals. I spoke to him right before I came in with you. I'm going to see him with Ambassador Greer tomorrow, and he'll have the final decision. I think our Chinese counterparts have jumped the gun a little and said that we do have an extension. I can say that the meetings were very far-reaching, robust, and highly satisfactory.
And what will you recommend to President Trump, if you can share it with us? Will you recommend that he extend that pause?
Well, we're just going to give him the facts, and then he'll decide.
What can you tell us was agreed to in the room, if anything? Any specific agreements on any of those agenda items that you set up in the pregame, as you call it?
Okay, so let's see what Bessent says here. If there's any specific frameworks we can take away, they're probably not going to admit everything, but let's try to see what they might be coming to an agreement on.
Well, we continually are perfecting their rare earth control system. It was a new system that was put in globally on April 4th, and it's been a bit clunky. So we keep pushing them to work on that, and it's the entire global supply chain, because the restrictions or the controls aren't just on the U.S., it's on every country. So we discussed that. We made some very good progress on that. We had very long discussions, in-depth discussions, and reports on each other's economies. We push them. They have what they call the 5-year plan coming up. I believe the meeting is in September, October. It'll be discussed in February, and we discuss, or Ambassador Jameson and I encourage them to work on rebalancing the economy towards more of a consumer economy, away from a manufacturing economy. And if they have decided that is in their 5-year plan, to make that public.
The other big piece of speculation going into this was, would this tee up a Xi Jinping, Donald Trump meeting sometime in the fall, maybe October? You've said now that there was no discussion of that in these talks. So where do we stand on the idea of a possible world leaders meeting?
It was June 4th, June 5th. President did a call with Party Chair Xi. Party Chair Xi invited him to come to Beijing. So that'll be something between the White House and Xi's staff.
What else was discussed in the room? One of the items was Chinese purchases of Iranian oil. What did they say to your request to stop making those purchases?
They said they're a sovereign nation, and that they have security needs, energy needs, and that it would be based on their internal policies.
And so you don't have any leverage at this point to push them on that, or do you?
Well, not at this point. We have, at Treasury, we have sanctioned what are called teapot refineries. They are private refineries, not state-owned. And so we have sanctioned those refineries, the owners, and some of those owners may have assets in the U.S.
The other big question coming into this was how much would the EU deal, having been signed on Sunday, influence what happened in the room in Stockholm this week? Did you get a sense whether that made any difference in terms of the trajectory of the talks here?
I think that everyone can see the arc of where these trade deals are going. I won't say that the Chinese were on their heels because they're very composed, but Vice Premier Hu Feng is a seasoned politician. But it's clear that the momentum was with us, that when you get the EU, the world's largest trading bloc, when you get that deal inked, we had Japan, we had Indonesia, we had Vietnam. So not only did we have the EU, who has a very large trading relationship with China, we also had 3 of their neighbors.
You said something interesting with a small group of reporters earlier today, which was that the Chinese goods, if the U.S. is going to tariff Chinese goods, those goods have to go somewhere, and you think they're flowing to Europe, Canada, and Australia. Do you think Europe needs to put up a tariff wall of its own? Do you think they need to be tariffing Chinese goods?
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't put on some kind of tariffs at a point. But this is where the opportunity is for the Chinese to be proactive and create a bigger consumer economy and sell more of those goods at home, because those goods can't just flow to the global south.
You've said that.
All right, so that's some of the main stuff from Bessent. Essentially, his argument right here is, hey, China needs to reshape their economy, and in order to reshape their economy, they have to be more consumer-centric. Now, my question is, can you actually convince China to go from a manufacturing nation to a consumer-oriented nation, or at least make a bigger step towards consumerism versus production? I don't know. If they do, big for the U.S. because they'll buy more of our stuff. If they don't, or if they don't in a meaningful way, I don't know if they get that much of a commitment from, or we get that much of a commitment from them on buying as many things from the U.S. Marathon, by the way, up about 3.3% after hours. Starbucks losing some of its pump. It was up 5. Now it's up 2.3. Cheesecake was up 5. Now it's up 3.7. Today's a tough day for earnings. It's a tough day for earnings. Tomorrow's going to be a tough day for earnings as well. Bank of America came out today and they said the jobs report on Friday is going to be a dud. They don't think the jobs report is going to be good. Jolts this morning was not horrible, but it was kind of a nothing burger, but it didn't really tell us one way up or down for Friday. But you do have Bank of America saying, hey, Friday's going to suck. You have Jay Powell tomorrow, who, look, he's not going to cut, but if he's at least not hawkish, that would be nice. And I don't think any of us know if he's really going to be hawkish or dovish. If I had to guess, I would say more of a dove than a hawk, but still, we just don't know. And then you have tech earnings, and we don't know if Microsoft and Meta are really going to put up the numbers that they need to put up to meaningfully see that we have momentum. On Friday, we have July payrolls. Again, the street's expecting 110,000, and then we have the unemployment rate. So we have non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate. And if that is a dud, ironically, it's on August 1st. We talk about the seasonal decline in August, right? If it is a dud on August 1st, and we're already seeing a little bit of weakness with high beta, which is not crazy given the month we had so far in July, then maybe we get some pain. Maybe we do get some pain. S&P 500 again up about 3% for the month. If you look at the 1 year, going back to the 5 year, going back to August of last year, as you can see, we went from 560 towards the end of August to 540. So that was your decline. And then we bounced up to 609, and then we had the whole tariff stuff, came to 505. Now we're at 635. A 5% decline from here would basically put you at, if my math is not wrong, basically 600 on the S&P, which is not crazy. 603, 604, that's not crazy to imagine. But does it have to happen? I think is the broader question here. By the way, Anthropic, we were talking about them the other day. They have raised at $170 billion. Folks, the valuation for Anthropic, the creators of Claude, which is the #1 coding large language model on the planet, was $60 billion in March. They have 3x the valuation in 5 months. This is why companies like Palantir are getting a bid. This is why OpenAI gets $300 billion. This is why NVIDIA gets $4 trillion. The entire market simply feels there is going to be such massive momentum in AI, or as Josh says, we're in a bubble. that could be the other option. And that's why it continues to grow. I mean, Google and Amazon, I don't have the exact specifics on who invested in this round, but Google and Amazon already own, call it, I mean, they invested, Amazon invested $8 billion. I think Google invested $3 billion in the previous funding rounds. So those stakes are going to become larger for them. But if they invested again in this round, it just means that they're very, very excited about Anthropic. Now, I don't think we're in a bubble. Again, that's not my perspective here. I think earnings is strong enough and AI is too real. But 170 billion from 60 billion. Now, Claude's growth is incredible. I mean, for any software engineers that use Claude, I mean, it is one of the backbones for software engineering in the AI-driven era. Even I've used it, and I'm just like, wow, dude. Like, I feel like a programmer, and I'm not a programmer. I mean, like that is really the magic of AI, right? It gives people potential and the ability to accelerate whatever ideas they have, even if they don't have the skill sets, because do you really need the skill sets if you have a supercomputer in your pocket? And so the question just becomes, what does that mean in regards to actual profitability? And, you know, over the coming years, I think we'll get a better understanding of that as well. So there you go. That's what we got on Anthropic. AMD right here. Again, great day for AMD. A lot of the AMD bulls got some momentum today. It is now up 50% year to date, 177.44. It did hit 182 at one point. HIMS is still down a little bit after hours. Grab is up 1.5%, 539 after hours. Robinhood down a little bit, and NVIDIA as well up a little bit. Speaking of Robinhood, this is what Beiju just posted. He is the co-founder of Robinhood. A lot of people don't know this guy because he left in 2020, but he is the second guy who started Robinhood. Trip down memory lane to the early days of Robinhood. IPO was 4 years ago today. I didn't even know the IPO was 4 years ago today, but they were at $38 4 years ago today, got to 85, tanked to 6, and now at 104, which is pretty incredible to kind of see this playing out. How do you get exposure to Anthropic? You've got to either know a guy that can get you onto the SPV that has exposure to the cap table, or there are platforms out there like Hive, HIIVE.com, where you can buy and sell different private stocks. Let's type it in. Anthropic. Does it pop up? It should pop up. Yeah. Okay, so Anthropic right there. It's saying $69 a share. I'm not logged in or anything, so when you log in, I think it'll give you more accurate reflecting of price, because it gets the bids and the asks in real time. But yeah, I mean, if you're an accredited investor, there is a way to get exposure to this stuff. It's just you're going to be paying a premium on the private markets. But if you think Anthropic's going to $1 trillion, right, then it is what it is. Or you could buy Google or Amazon or NVIDIA. It's also, you know, not a crazy way to get exposure as well. He still has shares. I think he has, if I'm not wrong, he still has like, let me check real quick. He still has like 40 million shares or something. Beiju has, I know Vlad has like 50 million, but Beiju he's been selling a lot more than Vlad over the past couple of years. I actually got to meet him in person. I got to meet him it's about 40 million. I got to meet him back in February. He's starting a new startup around energy, and he's using like outer space to make energy. It's like this really cool idea. It's called Aetherflux, and I got to meet him. I got to talk to him about the early days of Robinhood. He's just a super cool guy, dude. But he kind of, you know, the main reason he left is because he just kind of didn't want to be a public market CEO. He was kind of like he enjoyed the process of creating Robinhood. But then when it came to dealing with board of directors and shareholders, and you know, you have to deal with investor relations, he's way too creative to deal with all that stuff, and so that's why he left. But you know, he built a hell of a company, and we're seeing the momentum. Also, his parents are immigrants. I mean, like literally came from India with nothing, and you know, he built a $100 billion company. Bitcoin right here, 117.2 after hours. That is slightly red. SoFi, again, earnings was in the morning for SoFi. They crushed it. I thought it was a great quarter. Tanner's probably going to do a FinTech Frenzy tonight, and you can check out more of his thoughts. He was on my show in the morning, so you can see his thoughts when the market open. He thought they crushed it as well. I think the stock fell just because of the macro more than anything else. Steve does not own shares of Cheesecake. I don't think he does. Let's call Steve. Let's see if he picks up. Let's see if he has any thoughts on SoFi. I doubt he's going to be happy, but it was a great quarter. Like, even Steve can't say it wasn't a good quarter, because it was a good quarter, dude. It was a great quarter. 44% revenue growth is definitely not something you say is not that big of a deal. Yeah, he can't pick up. He's in a meeting. We'll try to get him after, or at least tomorrow. Figma IPO is on Thursday. That's correct. We'll see how oversubscribed that is. Risk on and appetite is coming off a little bit, but it's Figma. It's 40x oversubscribed, not 30x oversubscribed as it was yesterday. So I think there will be some momentum. I have not talked to Chris all day. I have no idea what he's thinking about UNH. So we'll try to get him on maybe tomorrow on the close. If he's, well, not tomorrow, because tomorrow's a big day. Maybe Thursday. I'm pretty sure he's trying to figure out what's going on with UNH as well. The big thing on UNH again is just like the $16 of guidance. That was just not, I mean, that's aggressive, dude. That's aggressive to the downside. Now, again, if you're a UNH bull, you've got to believe they're sandbagging, because what else would you believe, right? It's sandbagging. But if it's not sandbagging, then there's an issue. And I refuse to believe that it's not sandbagging. But that is also why, you know, this has to be more of a long-term thesis as to what's going on. Here's a little bit of coverage from Stephanie Link on her thoughts.
Talk about some committee stocks today that are falling. Stephanie Link owns the stock. What do you think?
It wasn't about the quarter. It was about the guidance. 2025 at $16 was lower than kind of worst case scenario. I thought it was going to be something like $18. So that's obviously disappointing. But you have a new CEO, and I think he's kitchen sinking the numbers for this year and then the recovery into next year. But I think the realization that this is a 2026 turnaround story is the reality at this point. I had always expected 2026 to be the turn, not 2025. We already knew all this bad news. That's the reason the stock's down 40%.
They've been kitchen sinking, garbage disposaling, dishwasher.
Well, it's not been pretty, for sure. It's not been good. This is not one of the reports where I say it's a buying opportunity right today. I do think for the long term, but you have to have a 2-year time horizon at this point.
Wait.
But you have a CEO who is a new CEO who's proven.
This is what every analyst does. It's not even Stephanie. It's like every time you have a crappy quarter, you're like, well, if you have 2 or 3 years to wait, you know, you can, and it's true, dude. Like I feel like at least I've been saying that for the past month. UNH is not a overnight play. They have a lot of issues in regards to the DOJ. It is ridiculously undervalued, but it's gonna take a couple years. And then on a day like this, that's the only thing you can say. It's gonna take a couple years.
Who was behind Optum and the success of Optum for 10 years is this company. He left. So he's the executive chairman. New guy comes in, was a disaster. Now he's back. And it's just going to take time. They got to reprice Medicare Advantage. That's the whole key. And that happens next year.
You say it's not a buying opportunity today, but you had been buying when the stock had pulled back on other news. So what's the difference between then and now?
Well, I just think that it's going to take a little more time. And
the difference is the earnings sucked and it's going to take longer than expected. I mean, it happens to everybody. But like these earnings just were not good. Even if they sandbagged them, they weren't good. And as a result, even Stephanie's saying, hey, there's other opportunities that are out there that deserve my capital more than UNH.
I'll look for better opportunities, or maybe this is the opportunity, Scott. I don't know, but there's no rush is my point, because you have a CEO who is being extremely conservative, rightfully so, but it's going to at least take another quarter or two for that to prove itself out.
Okay, show me Merck, please.
Look, if you've been in any name that's been deeply undervalued, AMD, when it fell to $75, $90 for like 3-4 months, the AMD bulls had to deal with that as well. Now, I know AMD is different than UNH, but the point is you either have conviction or you don't. If you don't have conviction, you get the hell out and you move on. But then you can't cry if UNH goes up 10% next month. But if you do have conviction and UNH goes down 10% next month, you should be wanting to buy more. Like, it's just the nature of picking individual stocks. That's why this game is so hard. And that's why conviction as like a core axiomatic truth is what matters when it comes to actually finding individual securities that you want to invest in. And without it, it's just hard to ultimately believe that you can stay long a name for a long period of time. Yeah, but if I bought AMD 2 years ago, I'd be mad. Well, that is true, dude. AMD peaked at 220 back in freaking March of 2024. right? Yeah, 227, March of 2024. You kind of had to buy it all the way down to 76 to hopefully get a decent average to do better than breaking even. And now it's still lower than that March 2024 peak that it had as well. Novo still down on the day. That one getting hit. We talked about Booking. I don't see any big flaw in the earnings, but that stock is down about 1.7%. I mean, Booking really doesn't move that much up or down. So how much are they up year to date? Booking, they beat on the top and the bottom. Booking, yeah, it's up 13% year to date. Relatively flat. Rather safe name. Small dividend there, $180 billion market cap. So nothing too crazy on their earnings. Amit, do you think we can get rate cuts coming tomorrow in the FOMC meeting? No. I mean, let's do a poll. We covered Marathon already. We covered them. They beat on EPS. The reason they beat is because of Bitcoin. And that's pretty much the main reason. No technical Tuesday today. Jason cannot make it today, unfortunately. Again, he's building out a second headquarters. But also, it's hard to do TA on earnings because, like, you could say one thing about a stock and then they have earnings and the fundamentals completely change the technicals, right? So TA into earnings is not that easy to do. HIMS right here is up a little bit after hours and then grab 540. That one continuing to go green after hours. I don't think we get a rate cut tomorrow. There's a 2.7% chance. It would be pretty astonishing if J-Powell cuts. By the way, one thing that's going to be interesting about tomorrow, take a look at this stat. You're going to get two Fed presidents that dissent. Bauman. Oh, and by the way, Waymo's in Dallas. Waymo announced they're going to Dallas today. So Waymo is now expanding into New York, Philly. They're already in Austin. They're continuing to expand there and Dallas. You're going to have Bauman and the other guy, Waller, say no or say yes to the rate cut. And if two of them actually say yes to the rate cut, that is going to be the first time since December of 1993 since we've had two Fed governors dissenting. Usually it's one Fed governor or it's a unanimous decision because the Fed tries to be as unified as possible. Tomorrow, if you get two presidents that say, no, we think we should cut in July, it'll be the first time in over 30 years that you've seen that level of dissent from the Fed governors. Now, maybe J-Powell cuts, maybe because of what P. Morton says right here, that he knows unemployment numbers are going to be pretty bad on Friday. But then it begs the question, why would unemployment numbers be that bad? And I don't know, because all the other labor market data we've seen has been pretty good, at least on the books, right? Anecdotally, it might be different. But let's say it is bad. And then J-Powell cuts. I think the narrative is not going to be, yes, we got a rate cut. I think our narrative is going to be, oh boy, is there something cracking in the economy? And again, you got a little bit of cracks here and there. I'm going to try to aggregate a lot of the companies that have reported and kind of come up with a real list of consumer issues, demand issues, tariff issues we've seen. Only a few, literally a handful of companies have said they're having some consumer issues or tariff issues. It's not a trend yet, but by the end of next week, we're going to know, is there any meaningful crack in the labor market? Street wants 110,000 jobs. The past couple non-farm payrolls we beat like 20, 30,000 expected. And I don't know if that's going to be the case this Friday as well. Job numbers going to be bad. I've seen a lot of unemployment mail go out this past month. I mean, I showed you guys the stat this morning. LinkedIn is filing 11,000 job applications a minute, which is kind of wild. There definitely are some anecdotal cracks. It's just every time we get a labor market non-farm payroll report or JOLTS data, it's like not as bad as what the street thought it would be. 10-year TLT was up today as the 10-year slightly came down. Maybe even the bond market's potentially expecting a little bit of labor market weakness, which is why that one is going down. I quit my job last quarter to help with the rate cuts. That is the funniest version of someone begging for rate cuts that I've seen. That's actually hilarious. TLT is going up a lot. Does the market know something that we don't? Maybe, or maybe the market's stupid, bro. I mean, like they still have Google under 200. TLT, yeah, it's actually up 2%, almost 2%. I don't know. Maybe there is something. If we get a surprise cut by JPal tomorrow, that would be incredible. What's the ROI of me quitting my job on my portfolio? That's hilarious. Yeah, because if that helps with the rate cuts, maybe that helps with stocks. See, when we get a rate cut, the narrative has to be inflation's coming down, so JPal's cutting rates, the market's excited. If the narrative is, well, inflation's kind of sticky and the labor market's kind of weakening and JPal's trying to get ahead of it, it's not bullish, because then people are going to be like, all right, well, retail sales will slow down, consumer demand will slow down, everything that we care about will slow down. And if that happens, then we've got issues. So I think we kind of have to see how that plays out. Speaking of labor market data, here's one of the analysts from Sycamore. See what they have to say about why the labor market might be a bit more concerning.
We're getting these tax deals, trade deals, whatever you want to call them, they're tariff deals. We're getting the deals done, so that's good. But what's coming out of them isn't exciting me. Even the truce with China at 40%, I don't think that's good for growth. It's not good for consumption. 15% across the board, and then we'll probably get a hike on August 1st. But that's $350 billion of tariff revenue that's coming out of the consumer in the long run. Right now, it's coming out of companies, but that's got to go somewhere, right? And so, net, I think the market is saying there's less unknown now. We're getting more certainty, and so that feels good. But on the other hand, what I'm hearing doesn't get me excited. It doesn't sound like a positive.
We're too complacent around trade and the impact of tariffs over the longer run. Like the economy, what looks good today might not be such tomorrow, so to speak.
Well, let me put it this way. I think signal to noise ratio is horrible. There is so much noise. It is very difficult to pull signal out of the market. But if you go back to January 1 to now, inflation's about the same. Labor market's about the same. Earnings are still positive. There's not a whole lot of big signal that would tell this market it should be down a lot or up a lot, and it's kind of rebounded and gotten back there. So if you're just looking at signal and what we've gotten, it's okay. But I think it's weakening on the edge. I think some of the data we're seeing out of labor starts to concern me. If you look at the employment numbers come out and there's surveys, and every time those surveys come out, it looks strong, and everyone says, "Hey, the labor market's fine." But then the next month it comes out, and the prior month we were off by 100,000. We were off by 50. They've been off every month this year to the negative of about 75,000 on average. So there is some weakening under the surface, and those signals probably start to show up. And I think complacency might not be the right thing, but it's certainly the market needs to react to that.
The credit signals, if you want to continue to use that word, were flashing yellow for a little while.
A little bit, yeah.
They've calmed down.
Well, dispersion's up. So credit's this asset class that is very defensive. We only make money when we get our money back. We got a coupon, we get our money back. There's not a whole lot of upside in credit. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this before. I'm a pretty bearish sort of person in general. And
that's why you're in credit.
Yeah, that's what we do. But if you look at the names that are exposed to the industries that are mostly China, mostly hit by tariffs, those names are down 5-10 points. You're not escaping it in the credit markets. But on the surface, I mean, Scott, we're being pulled along by the equity markets. The credit's not leading in here. I mean, credit is high and tight, and there's not a whole lot of risk premium everywhere I look. The market is wide open. Activity is high. The CLO market that we're in, issuance is up probably 30-50% over long-term averages year to date. So markets are open. It's good. They're operating, but it's like on the edge. It's starting to feel like we should be more defensive in our thinking as opposed to offensive.
But that's why I said earlier, there was that moment where credit.
It's kind of the argument a lot of these analysts that I was listening to today have been making, which is, hey, we need to be more defensive. We need to take a little bit of risk off the table. And it's kind of what you say on a day like this, right? Especially if you think there are some cracks in regards to new data that's going to be coming out that potentially is not the best from a market perspective. And I think that's okay. I think I want to actually see the data. I want to see, like, that guy is speculating. He's saying, hey, the tariffs might not be good. Hey, that might not be good for consumption. Hey, this might not be good for the trade relations. It's like, oh, this is speculation. I want to see the data. And so far, the data has told me AI CapEx is going up and up and up and up. AI spending is going up and up and up. Earnings so far have been going up and up and up. And the labor market has not been going down. And inflation has been going down. You put all those together, I mean, that's a bull market. So until we really see data that goes the opposite, and I'll switch my mind if I see the opposite, but it's so far, I don't think we've seen that. At least not yet. The reason I was smiling, by the way, is because I posted, hi, can you see this? And people are saying yes. So Twitter is finally working. I can post again. Dude, I went 10 hours without posting on Twitter. I legit was acting like a fiend all day. Every time I had an idea, every time I had something creative in my mind of like, all right, I'm going to turn this into a post, I reached for my phone and I was like, wait a second, it doesn't work. And then when I would try, it would just fail. And so Twitter's back, which is nice. I have the shakes. Yeah, I was looking like that Chappelle meme, dude. I was looking like the freaking Chappelle meme. I needed to post this thing right here. This is what I was looking at. This was me. All day. I was trying to get my post. I couldn't do my post, dude. It's kind of crazy, bro. If you kind of go into a little bit of my mind as a content creator, when I get an idea on a post on X, I start factoring it into my mind. I start thinking of what the copy will look like, what the picture will be if there is a picture. I start thinking of, is this the right time to post? How do I want to post it? Do I want to wait a little bit? Like there's all this like content creator stuff that runs through your mind, especially if you're obsessed with it. People ask me all the time, like, hey, like, how do you become a content creator? You have to become obsessed with it because it really is 24/7 if you're going to grow the brand at scale, especially on something like Twitter where there's like 500 billion tweets every hour. I'm making that number up, but you get my point, right? So to stand out from the noise and to make content that's valuable, that's interesting, that people want to consume, that people want to react to, you just got to be obsessed. And that means that like throughout the day, I have like 50 different ideas. I only end up posting like 7 or 8 of them, but I have a lot of ideas. And today, with all this news going back and forth with earnings, I'm like, all right, I can post this, I can post this, I can post this. And then I just can't post. It's like I lost my voice. Honestly, what it told me is I'm really dependent on Twitter. Like, I'm just like, if that platform goes away, it would suck. Like, that's like my outlet to create outside of YouTube. But yeah, thankfully it's back. Okay, Brent Crude, we didn't talk about this, so thank you for this comment as well. So Trump, I can't believe I forgot to mention this. Trump was threatening Russia sanctions today, and that is what got Brent Crude to get above 70 on the futures. Trump said in 10 days we'll put on tariffs, and he referred to threatening secondary sanctions on Russian oil. That's the last thing we need right now, but yeah, that's not the best thing in the world when it comes to oil prices. As you can see, Brent is at 72, WTI right there is at 69. So you do have oil prices that are spiking on that as well. So there you go. Jason cannot make it today, guys. I'm sorry, Jason cannot make it today. He's a bit busy, but he'll be back next week. And then we'll keep going from there. Diego, thank you for the $20 super chat. What should I do in this situation? I sold covered calls for Hood at 130, SoFi at 25, NVIDIA at 190. They're from March of 2026. I sold these a while ago, but now the stocks ran. I don't know if I should buy them back or the best course of action. I would do nothing right now. None of those stocks are at those levels. Hood is nowhere near 130. NVIDIA is nowhere near 190. And SoFi got to 25 today, but then it got hit. I would roll those positions from March 26 to like June of 2026. I wouldn't buy them back. I would just keep rolling them. Elevate your stock price, your strike price. But I would do it when Hood actually gets closer to 130 or when NVIDIA actually gets closer to 190 and when SoFi actually passes your break even on 25. So I wouldn't stress too much on that positioning right now. Especially going into August. If we get a weak August, you might be able to roll down some of those covered calls because these stocks might take a hit. I mean, again, dude, I don't want to say August is going to take a hit, but like the price action we got today, it makes me think like all right, maybe August is going to take a hit. And I can't even get mad if it does, right? Like, I feel like no one can get mad if we really do take a hit that's like, all right, we had a big month and we're giving a little bit of that back. And eventually that's just consolidating to get back to the next leg up going into the end of the year. SoFi, are we dumping after hours on SoFi? It is dumping 1.34%. Down a little bit after hours. Again, not crazy, but that is down. Bitcoin 117. Granny shots up a little bit. BMNR is up at least 1% after hours. Did anyone buy the dip on BMNR? Oh, Lucid. Thanks for bringing that up. Lucid has a new brand ambassador, and the name is Timothy Chalamet. Timothy Chalamet. Not only is he a brand ambassador for Cash App, but he is now taking money from the Saudis when it comes to Lucid. Will that actually increase sales of Lucid? I think some people will buy it because of Timothy Chalamet, but this reeks of desperation, dude. I'm sorry. This and the Uber investment reeks of pure desperation. I mean, like, really? Timothy Chalamet? That's the best way to sell these cars? Wasn't the point of Lucid to be such a luxury vehicle that people would pick over Tesla because it's like a Lamborghini, but an electric version of it in terms of luxury? And that thesis is not playing out. This guy's an actor, for those that don't know him. I don't even know what movies he's been in, quite frankly. I don't really watch his movies, but he's a very prominent actor. He's dating Kylie Jenner. Kylie Jenner, most people know, Kim Kardashian family, so that's also a reason a lot of people know him. But yeah, dude, I don't know if that's gonna no one's buying that shit. I don't know. Dune? Oh, Dune, the movie? Oh, I've heard of that movie. Have you guys seen that movie? Dune movie. 2021. What was this shit about? 8 out of 10 on IMDb. Who's Rebecca Ferguson? Oscar Isaac. I know Zendaya. I've heard of her. No, I've never seen this. Don't get mad at me for not seeing Dune, bro. Is that like a big movie? That can't be that big of a movie. No, I've never seen Dune. Never seen Dune. Might as well pay Sydney Sweeney instead of some random dude. Dude, Chris Camillo is going short American Eagle. He's going short American Eagle. This thing was down 4% today. I think on their next podcast, they might talk about it, but he tweeted about it. And he said, viral negative backlash on TikTok from the brand's core female demographic says otherwise too early to call sales impact, but I'm short American Eagle on a speculative trade. Now, the negative backlash he's talking about are I've seen a couple of these like think pieces of women saying that like it's fascism for a blonde hair, blue-eyed girl to be promoting quote unquote the right genes because it brings up the topic of eugenics. And then it's like, hey, Sydney Sweeney, who's white, has the right genes, Gene versus the other type of gene, and that's fascist. That's the argument I've heard from some of the TikTok people. I don't know if I would go short American Eagle based on that, but he is right that there are people calling them out for that. I do think more people are going to buy the damn jeans without thinking that it's fascism, but maybe I'm wrong. And we're going to have to see. Dude, you're saying SoFi filed for an offering? No freaking way. No way did they file for an offering. Don't tell me that's true. Don't freaking tell me that's true. There's no way, dude. It's down 2.4. Tell me that's just one of you trolling. Do not tell me they filed for a mixed shelf offering. Hold on. I don't see anything yet. No, they did. Holy crap. Wait, okay, hold on. There's a couple of posts about it, but there's nothing official. There's no way. Dude, they filed for a mixed Holy, they did. But there's no amount disclosed. There's no amount disclosed. Stock's down 4%. Why are they filing an offering? What the hell do they need the cash for? Why? It's not dilution. So a mixed shelf offering is the future ability to dilute, aka if you file an offering for $1 billion, you're not dumping 1 billion shares on the market, but you have it's literally on a shelf, right? You have the ability to take it off the shelf and then dilute XYZ amount of money, $1 billion, 500 million, whatever it is. So it's a mixed shelf offering, meaning they have the optionality to do it. But why the hell do they need to do? Are they buying Bitcoin? Are they buying Ethereum? Like, this is not a company that needs cash to grow. They've been growing fine. They just grew 44%. I don't think Noto would buy Bitcoin, bro. He's still more traditional. He's not buying freaking Bitcoin. Dude, what? This is, and why didn't they disclose the amount? How do you do a mixed shelf offering without the amount? Unless they're legit becoming a treasury, which, I mean, that would be one hell of a spin. Becoming a crypto treasury, dude, that would be. SoFi just announced an underwritten public offering of 1.5 billion of its shares of its common stock. Okay, so Evan, who's a news source that I trust. Oh yeah, no. We got it's official. It's official. He got the screenshot. It's official. Okay, hold on. 1.5 billion worth of shares. So that's basically a little bit over 50 million shares, right? That's but divided by this price, that's about 71 million shares. Correct me if I'm wrong. If they were to dump all of it at $21, that's 71 million shares. SoFi expects to grant the underwriter a 30-day option to purchase up to an additional 15% of shares of common stock offered in the offering. You guys are saying they're buying crypto, but Noto's not that type of guy, in my opinion, to buy crypto. Like, at the end of the day, they want BlackRock and JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs to take them seriously as a big bank. I don't think Noto's the type of guy. Noto will, I really don't think he's trying to buy crypto and start a treasury. That's just not like Noto. That's not how we operate. SoFi right here down 4.5%. Maybe this is why it dumped in the middle of the day outside of the macro. Maybe someone knew this offering was coming. You guys are saying to call Tanner. I don't know if Tanner is going to be able to give you okay, there he is. Tanner. Yeah, Tanner. It's like a bat signal. Tanner, can I send, let me call you on WhatsApp if you have any raw thoughts on this. It is a bit confusing. Maybe there's some more clarity on what's going on here. 4.5% down. $1.5 billion offering. After the dump, I bought shares at 22. Yeah, this is a bit annoying. Tanner, if you're free, let me know. I'll send you the link. Or just you can pick up your phone and I'll get you on the audio. Dude, why would they... Can someone put a real reason in the chat? And don't give me this crypto nonsense. Like, tell me a real reason why they would dilute by what? Am I the only... I need someone's take on this besides mine. I would love anyone in the chat that has a reasonable argument here. Twitter is freaking out. Everyone's annoyed. I'm looking at all the posts right here. Everyone's saying it's weird. Unless the only argument I have is acquisition. Acquisition of what, though? Stock is overpriced in their opinion. See, okay, that's a reasonable take, but Noto needs 25 to get his first tranche of PSUs, performance stock options. He needs 35, then he needs 45. So to say the stock is overvalued and this is the time to dilute means that you don't think it should be worth even 25. So Noto doesn't deserve to get paid. I mean, if I'm Noto and I got $100 million waiting for me at $25 a share, I would be saying $25 is a good price on the stock, right? Okay, Tanner's calling me. Let me pick up. Let me see what Tanner has to say. Let's see, dude. That is a little weird. I don't know if it's... I mean, acquisition is the one that makes the most sense. Tanner, how are you?
Some reason. There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so apparently it's 1.5 billion of a mixed shelf. I know where you're just getting the news as we are, but any raw thoughts on why they could be doing this?
I mean, immediately I think acquisition.
So essentially, Anthony Noto has been talking about this for cryptocurrency, that they want to either try to build their own platform or acquire one. And they've been pretty clear that they would be open to acquiring a crypto business. So potentially that. I know that some people have floated around names like Bybit or something like this. So who knows? Could be another massive acquisition. I don't know. It's very weird because one of the questions during the call was about raising capital and it was kind of a non-answer. And I guess it was because of this. So
Are you at all annoyed? Are you like, how are you kind of processing this right now?
No, I mean, essentially SoFi has done very well with my money so far. So I'm definitely trusting with this. What I might actually do is take a little bit of your page out of the book or whatever and maybe acquire some while we get a little bit of a dip here.
Okay.
Because honestly, very much like what I saw from Robinhood that one time is they posted the greatest quarter we've ever seen and then the stock ended up falling. Yes, we're going to see some dilution, but that's usually only bad for existing shareholders, not new ones. So I might end up acquiring a little bit, take advantage.
Do you think they could at all be buying Bitcoin or Ethereum?
No.
Okay,
Zero
so you agree that sounds insane. That there's no freaking way. Yeah.
Not a chance.
Okay, so then the question is, you said a Bitcoin company. Before I dive deeper into that, or a crypto company, is there any other like lending thing you think they could acquire, or it's just crypto oriented in your raw thoughts?
Well, the only reason why I say I could speculate on other things that I think that they would be doing, but if you go into their like Q1 calls, for example, they've said, hey, we will look to acquire a crypto platform. So I don't think that it's going to be a consumer-facing crypto platform. I think it's going to be a crypto as a service type platform.
You mean like a blockchain they can apply to maybe tokenizing some of their stuff?
Yeah, potentially. Like or you know, a similar sort of situation as to Bitstamp.
Okay,
you know?
okay, I see what you're saying.
Something that goes well with Galileo, an institutional product, but also helps their own products as well. Something along those lines. I know that Bybit's name was floated around. There was another name, I forget the original. Here, maybe I can get back to you with this information, but the original founder of SoFi, Mike Cagney, ended up, after he left SoFi, went to go start a crypto company. So there was some floated questions of, do you think that they are going to combine once again to pick up that company? Because that might be an interesting piece of lore. But no, I do think that it's probably a crypto acquisition.
If it's not an acquisition, is there any world in which they're saying, hey, the stock's overpriced, we want to dilute? Because I don't see that if Noto has $25 as his target,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah. No, I don't think that he thinks it's overpriced. I mean, they wrote the Goldman Sachs deal was for this price. There's C-suite investors or C-suite executives that purchased stock recently near these prices. So I don't think that they think it's overpriced and they're trying to, like, they're a bank, right? I don't think that they're looking to do something like that. They want to make a move. And they said that they wanted to. So honestly, I'm kind of excited to see. I'm a little bit worried that they're paying. If I were to give a lot of criticism to Anthony Noto, he does not like to go bargain shopping like Vlad. Vlad's timing on their acquisitions have been perfect. Like buying Bitstamp while crypto was low, and then crypto has exploded, and it looks like the best price deal you could ever get. Galileo was an overpriced acquisition. Technisys was an overpriced acquisition. Wyndham Capital was extremely well priced. That one was amazing. But the two other tech platform ones were expensive. And roughly about $2 billion as well. This one seemingly could be coming in at that $2 billion range, which puts a lot of different, crypto names in that field. I heard some acquisitions, merger type comments about Plaid and these sort of names, but that would still be out of the range for this type of offering.
Yeah, this is about 5% of their market cap to make this acquisition. So, I mean, I guess it's something they think they have to do because it's an important one. They definitely waited till after an earnings pump to announce this. So
they are extremely bullish. Like, I know Noto holds Bitcoin, Ethereum in his own portfolio. He's been extremely bullish on crypto.
Right.
The only thing that stopped them was the rule sets.
The banking stuff.
You know?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the fact that that's opening up, he's been very adamant that they want to make a move there. Now, I don't think he turns this into a Bitcoin treasury or anything along those lines. I mean, that's not what's happening here. I just think that's the market because that's what we've seen a lot of deals come up on. But no, I think he's going to try to build the biggest
now this
consumer brand fintech.
This is to clarify for people. This is not them dumping 1.5 billion worth of shares. This is a mixed shelf offering, which means they can do it sometime in the future. Do you think? I mean, the stock's down 6%. Do you think the market wakes up in a couple days and is like, well, they're not diluting, and if they do dilute, it's going to be for a good reason. So, like, we shouldn't be too scared of buying at these levels, essentially.
I don't know. I think, you said it's 5% of the market cap. Stock's down 6%. I think that makes sense. I think it's just an accurate response to some dilution, and people don't know what they're going to do with it yet. Now, if you go ahead and, like, I don't know, they've been pretty clear, even in new job applications and stuff like this, they've been hiring people for mergers and acquisitions. So that's where I'd place my money. But I don't think people are going to make serious changes in their portfolio until they see what they've purchased.
Got it.
But we'll see, man. Overall, this doesn't change the thesis at all for me. I had a feeling this was coming. Whether they were going to use just cash or, but I guess that's the problem with being a bank, right? Is that they needed to have some cash on hand because that's part of their ability to lend out. So
Yeah.
That would change their capital ratios. So maybe this is the only way for them to be able to do this.
Got it. All right, Tanner. Thank you. I'll make sure to get more of your thoughts later. I'm linking Tanner's channel right here. He'll be live tonight, right? And I'm sure he'll be covering.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Tanner, big live stream tonight. I'm linking his channel for those that care a lot more about SoFi. He will be diving into all the numbers, and you guys can check that out as well. Tanner, thank you.
Thanks,
We appreciate
brother.
it.
Talk to you later.
Later.
Bye.
All right, so Tanner thinks it's for a crypto company. Tanner thinks it's for a crypto company. Yeah, my calls are cooked, bro. This thing better stay over 20. Oh my goodness, bro. Imagine if this thing goes, I don't think it goes back to freaking 17, 18. I think that's a bit aggressive for a mixed shelf offering, especially if it's something good that they're buying. Now, the problem is, let's say SoFi gets to 25, 26, 27, and then they dump the 1.5 billion at that time, just like BM&R can dump whenever they want. That's what Webull might have done today. That's my only argument for why Webull was down 12%. The fear of them dumping these shares, that's why mixed shelf offerings are so annoying for investors. If you get a little bit of run in the stock and then they dump it, that's more shares that are added to the pool, which means your ownership goes down, which means the stock tends to go down, unless they're buying stock or they're buying a company that is so value accretive, which if Tanner's right about this crypto acquisition, Nota's going to have to prove to the market, hey, we're buying XYZ crypto, blah, blah, blah. And here's how it's going to increase our revenue forecast by 4% or whatever. I don't know how that's going to play out, but that is now going to be a little bit of, an overhang that SoFi has to deal with. Does not change the long-term thesis, but it is a little bit of a punch in the gut. I'm not going to lie. After a great earnings, I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see this reverse. I mean, again, it's an overhang. It's annoying. But if you believe in SoFi and their management team and their ability to acquire companies, Tanner did point out, hey, they might have overpaid for some companies in the past, but maybe they can get a good deal. Then eventually it's potentially not going to matter that much. It is not 15. It's not a 1.5 billion shares. It's 1.5 billion worth of shares. So at 21, that's about 71 million shares, which is still a lot, but it's not crazy. Am I doing the math right? Is that 71 million? I feel like I'm doing the math wrong on that. 1.5 billion divided by 21 million. What is that? I feel like 71 is too high. No, 71.4. Wow. All right, good. 71.4 million. All right. So that would be the amount of shares. So there you go. All right, what are you guys thinking? Yay or nay? What's your immediate reaction? What are we thinking? Yes, no, good, bad? Covered calls. Shout out to covered calls, baby. They always find a way sometime to give you a little bit of room. Feeling good, feeling bad, not liking it. Dr. Phil says poor communications to Noto. I'm sending you to a corner for now. Meh. Thomas says got to let it play out. Robert says buy the dip. I think I'm going to need a hell of a lot more SoFi, says Trey. Clyde says SoFi just made a deal with Vlad. Noto bought Hood. Who knows? Maybe Vlad's selling them for 1.5 billion. I think that would be not the best deal for Vlad, but Tanner was right though. I mean, Robinhood has done a really good job acquiring companies, like a very sophisticated job. He's been an assassin at finding deals and just striking when the time is right. And the beautiful thing about Robinhood is they have so much freaking cash and cash flows that the acquisition they made for what's it called? The IRA company. I'm forgetting the name of whatever it was, but they acquired Trade PMR for $300 million. They bought back $300 million worth of shares. It was a net wash on the share count because the management team was smart enough to say, hey, we're spending $300 million. We're going to buy back $322 million to be exact worth of shares. Like, I mean, it's just excellent communication and strategy on getting the right deal and then being able to make sure shareholders don't get screwed by it. So, Robinhood's acquisitions have been strong. For SoFi, they're going to have to show, as Tanner said, Technesis and the other one, Galileo. It was in 2020. That was a little bit of a frothier market that they paid for. Maybe they can get a more undervalued deal in 2025. Tanner says, in addition to enabling members to invest in crypto coins, we will enter into other areas over the next 6 to 24 months, but potentially much sooner via acquisition or if the changing regulation allows. Okay, that line right there, Tanner, if that's from the 8K or whatever SEC document it's from, that right there makes me think Tanner is completely right. Look at that wording, but potentially much sooner via acquisition. That tells me Tanner's right. They are going after a company. And that company is likely a crypto company. So then the question becomes, who is it going to be? Matthias says, I think BKKT. Isn't this, hold on, I heard of this company, BK. Why do I recognize that ticker? BKKT. Yeah, but didn't they have a partnership? Dude, why was this stock down 40% today? Second of all, didn't they have a partnership with Trump? With DJT? Wasn't DJT buying these guys, if I'm not wrong? I feel like they were. Yeah, I think this company definitely makes sense. What's their market cap? They are 141 million. That could definitely happen. Yeah, but it feels like this is, oh wow, they're down today because well, no, not today. This is from March. Webull said they're not going to renew their commercial pact with BKKT, but I think DJT is working with them. But why did they go down 40% today? Yeah, Webull and March said they're not relying on them anymore. 40% down seems a bit weird. But okay, so that's one company I could see. Gemini, how much is Gemini? You don't need 1.5 billion to buy a $100 million company. That's fair. Okay, that's a fair point. Gemini Exchange. Wait, isn't that what the Winklevosses own? Yeah, that company, public valuation. Let me see if I can find it. Gemini Exchange valuation. If that's 1.5 billion, that could be a candidate. It is 7.1 billion. That's not going to be Gemini. Dude, Gemini filed to go public in 2020 in June. I didn't even see this. $7.1 billion valuation. They went to go public. So, yeah, that one is not going to be the one. Kraken is way too big, in my opinion. BKT already has a Bitcoin treasury. Okay, so that could definitely stop SoFi. Kraken valuation. Kraken private valuation is 10 billion. Yeah, Kraken's way too big, dude. Kraken is that's a pretty big name in crypto. It's got to be some small, it's got to be like a Bitstamp, like Tanner was. It's got to be some small company BitGo is 1.75 billion. They're not public, right? BitGo? No, they're not public. For those that are just joining, SoFi is down 6% after hours because they filed a mixed shelf offering of 1.5 billion worth of shares, meaning they can dilute shareholders by about $2 billion bucks. And likely they are doing it based on what Tanner said and based on some wording from their SEC filings, because they're going to use that 1.5 billion to buy a company to enhance their crypto ambitions. And this quote from Tanner, that's from the Q1 transcript. Okay, so that quote almost certainly makes it seem like that's what they're trying to do. So again, for the TLDR, if it's getting too technical, is, hey, sometimes a company needs to raise money. They can offer shares to the public markets because there's deep liquidity in the public markets. What is liquidity? Liquidity is just people that are willing to buy whatever asset that is available to sell. And $1.5 billion worth of shares can easily be dumped on SoFi because this thing trades hundreds of millions of shares a day. That's not good for the stock because you've got 71 million shares. If you do it at the $21 price, 1.5 billion divided by 21 a share, that gets dumped onto you, right? So if you own one share of a total stock that has 10 shares, you own 10%. If they dilute it by 10x and now there's 100 shares, you own 1% because 1 out of 100 is 1% versus 1 out of 10, which is 10%. So dilution is always bad, but if the dilution is not dilution is always bad. Dilution can always be bad short term for the stock price, but if the dilution is accretive because the company is doing something with that money, like Tom Lee is doing something with the money, he's buying Ethereum, Saylor's doing something with the money, he's buying Bitcoin, then whatever they're doing with the money, if that's valuable for and this is not Noto enriching his pockets or anything, right? This is him as a CEO saying we need capital to do a strategic acquisition to increase the value of the business. The question is, how valuable will this acquisition be, and are they going to get their money's worth for 1.5 billion? So that's what you got on SoFi. What if they buy a smaller bank? I don't know. There are 4,000 banks in America, but then they would have to buy a regional bank. But that's not their goal. Their goal is not to buy regional banks in like some random state. You know, their goal is to take those regional banks out of business because people rather would use SoFi. So I don't know if that would play out. Public brokerage is worth 1.2 billion. However, I don't think it's public because public just raised the Series D. They just raised the Series D at around 1.2, but they just raised who do they raise from? They raised from freaking a bunch of firms. I'll pull it up in a second. But public, so some people you might use public. They're a competitor in the brokerage space. I don't think they would buy them because that's unless they think SoFi Invest is not making any money and they need to expedite the process on bringing over invest accounts. I doubt it would be public. But public is in that price range. Is PayPal worth more than 1.5 billion? That's a good question. Yeah, public raised 135 million in December 2024. So I doubt they're going the acquisition route after they just raised 135 million. Like they probably want to go for a bigger market here. That is weird. Steve is not getting on today. Steve was on last night on the Tech Bro Show, but he's not going to be able to make it today. Public founders are ex-SoFi, guys. That is right. That is true. But why would they buy? Okay, so if they bought public, they would get access to a lot more users that use I think SoFi has more net users, but public has more like brokerage users. They would get access to public's revenues, which I would imagine have to be in the hundreds of millions. They would get access to a better investing platform than SoFi. That's just like we can all agree. SoFi's investing platform is not the best. But they don't really get access to any crypto infrastructure. So I don't like that. If Noto's talking about tokenizing loans and stuff, like public's not going to help them with that. They're not buying Webull. Although Webull's $6 billion market. No, they can't buy Webull. That'd be too much. I did not sell my calls. No. For below 20 by January. I mean, those calls aren't cooked as long as they're above 15. It's not going to be the 14x return that I was wanting to see. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of thinking over the next coming days to figure out. Stash Financial, but is that a crypto thing? Stash Financial? No, this is just another brokerage. Yeah, I doubt it'd be this. I mean, look, at the end of the day, SoFi has a brokerage. They've got to buy ecosystem infrastructure companies if they want to really enhance their tech platform vision, not just brokerages for users, because they can get tons of users. I mean, if they make the SoFi Invest app better and they're adding 850,000 users a quarter, they should be able to do some cross-selling to get people to use the Invest platform, right? So buying a brokerage is weird to me. It wouldn't make that much sense. Yeah, I kind of agree with I'm Beneficial right here. They might acquire something unrelated to crypto, like a bank or a lender. But then again, the crypto stuff is what Tanner cited in that quote. That seems more likely. That's true. They didn't change their EPS. That's fair. They didn't change they increased revenue and EPS guidance today. So it's not like, and they had to have known that they were going to issue a mixed shelf offering, which means the company's not saying it's going to lead to any desecration of margins or any pain on the top line. It's just something annoying that, the market has to deal with. What if they just buy Bitcoin? Again, I don't think Noto's the type of guy to do that. Now, if they did, ironically, the stock might be up a lot more because SoFi is a really big retail name. If they bought Bitcoin and they entered into the crypto ecosystem, I think people would just be excited and just buy it for the hell of it. But I don't think they're buying Bitcoin. Noto's he's not like that. It doesn't seem like he's like that. It's probably to do something with tokenizing mortgages. Well, see, here's the thing. This is why technology is so important, right? Because if they can't figure out how to create the tech infrastructure to do whatever Noto was talking about today, like tokenizing loans, and they need to buy a company to help them do that, it's just an expensive thing to do. Now, it might be value accretive, but if they don't have the talent to do that themselves, again, that's where it begs the question, right? Like, how exactly do they enable themselves to be a tech company at scale over the long term if they have to keep acquiring companies to build out tech infrastructure? That's not a bad thing, again. It's just one of the things to think about, right? Because if they can't figure out how to set up a layer 2 blockchain and tokenize and all this stuff, that means they just don't have the tech talent or the crypto talent that's helping them do that, which is okay. Shareholders just have to be ready for the fact that they're going to need to buy other companies to help them do that. And then it's a question of management speed and execution and incorporating those companies. They're going to have to be really good at M&A to make sure those acquisitions work for this to end up playing out. That's not their core business. Yeah, but again, they're asking for a tech multiple, right? If you say that's not their core business, which is a technology-oriented thing, and they're having to buy tech companies, Galileo, Technisys, whatever this crypto thing might be, and they're asking for a tech multiple, this is when the street starts asking, okay, so we'll wait until you do your acquisition, and then we'll see the earnings growth, and maybe then we'll give you a tech multiple. Or maybe the street doesn't care. Maybe the street says, hey, this is not that big of a deal. They're acquiring a company, revenue 44% year-over-year growth, boom, we're going to give it a multiple. Like it's one of the things that's not inherently native inside of the culture of the business, which is that they might have to outsource a lot of the technology stuff to build out these core tech products. Cheesecake right here, that's up 2%. Starbucks up 3.4%. Lending Club had a great after hours, up 17.85%. Logitech's up 3%, Marathon's up 4%, and then SoFi is down 6.25%. I think Lending Club had earnings, dude. I didn't see any of you guys put their numbers. I didn't see their numbers. I don't know if I missed their numbers. But, oh no, they did have earnings. Okay. Revenue's up. Wow. 32% year over year. Originations up 32%. Net income up 156%. There you go. That is your argument for Lending Club. No, SoFi's not acquiring Lending Club. What's the market cap of Lending Club? There's no way. Aren't they like 10 billion or something? No, Lending Club is 1.5 billion. Dude, what if it's freaking Lending Club? What if it's Lending Club? I mean, that would be kind of interesting. Yeah, there's the earnings right there. That would be kind of crazy. They can't acquire Plaid. Plaid is worth 13 billion. They can't acquire Plaid. So I don't know. Rango says, sadly, they couldn't buy a crypto company or build a crypto town pool literally after the election since they're a bank. Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point that Rango's saying. They did not have the regulatory framework to buy a crypto company or to build the crypto talent because the regulations didn't allow them to. But now with Trump coming in and kind of allowing it to be more free, they might have room to get into that. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. Ultimately, that banking charter is kind of what stopped them from getting super deep into crypto. How was Lending Club year to date? It's up 17% after hours. Year to date, it was down 18%. Okay, so literally anything they could put up, if it was somewhat decent, was going to help the stock. And that's why it's up 18%. Plaid is now 6 billion. Really? They took a down round? Last time I thought they were 13. Oh, yeah. Wow. April 2025. They went to 6 billion. Plaid is used in almost every fintech when it comes to connecting with your bank. JP Morgan's been giving them a hard time the past couple of days of saying that Plaid is taking too much of their customer data. But okay, so they took a down round. See, 2021, they were 13.4 billion. Now they're at 6. Still, SoFi probably couldn't buy them. But yeah, that valuation has come down. They asked about dilution on his interview on CNBC. I don't think they asked about that. We watched it an hour ago. I don't think they asked about dilution. Unless I'm wrong. They're going to use it for 4 superstar AI engineers and pump the stock to the moon on AI finance hype. Well, every AI engineer at this point is worth basically 300 million, right? So 1.5 billion, get four engineers, and boom, there you go. There's your AI momentum multiple that's there. Okay, they did ask about dilution. All right, so I'm going to go back to the CNBC clip and see what Noto said. I probably missed it. They asked about dilution. Was he on Bloomberg today as well? No, he was not on Bloomberg today. Tanner, was he in? CNBC has a shorter clip. I think Tanner had a longer clip. We watched, what, 4 minutes? Yeah, Tanner. Okay, so let's go to this part of the interview because we missed 3 minutes of the interview. So let's see if he talked about dilution.
They can refinance with us at 12 to 13% interest with no prepayment penalties, no
618. Okay, let me go to that. Okay.
Record. We used to only do about 2 to 3 billion a quarter.
Finally, with the shares going from basically 9 to 24 in the span of a few months, is there any likelihood that you'll want to raise some capital or kind of reset capital levels?
Damn, bro. I didn't see that part of the interview. It's almost like someone gave him that question or something. I mean, it's probably just a coincidence, but they straight up asked him, and it looks like Noto knew they were going to do that.
Listen, we're always looking at our balance sheet and making sure that we have our future plans well capitalized. We feel like our capital ratios are strong. They're obviously available for investors to take a look at, but they're well above our regulatory minimums. The capital market situation is one that we're always evaluating to keep our cost of capital low, but we feel like we have adequate capital on the balance sheet, but could be opportunistic from time to time if it can lower our cost of funding and help give us continued growth capital. But right now, our plans are adequately funded with our balance sheet, but we'll continue to evaluate opportunities.
See, that's a little... Nothing he said was wrong. Nothing he said was wrong. If you put him in a room with 15 lawyers, they would say everything he said was perfect. But that last sentence, if I'm thinking of buying shares after hearing that question, and I'm a new shareholder and I'm watching CNBC and I'm like, hey, 44% revenue growth. Let me see what the CEO has to say. They ask about dilution. And then he says that last sentence, right now, Let me play it again so I'm not misquoting. We feel adequately funded. I say, okay, cool. No dilution. I'm going to buy shares. And then you see what they do after hours. And that's why I think people are a little annoyed.
To keep our cost of capital low, but we feel like we have adequate capital on the balance sheet, but could be opportunistic from time to time if it can lower our cost of funding and
so he said we could be opportunistic,
help give us continued growth capital. But right now our plans are adequately funded with our balance.
But right now our plans are adequately funded with our balance sheet. It's nothing illegal or anything. It's just, all right, if I'm listening to it for the first time, I'm like, okay, cool. They don't need to dilute. But, you know, he said we can be opportunistic, which means they have the ability to.
On sheet, but we'll continue to evaluate opportunities.
All right, there you go. There you go. That's what we got on SoFi. Down 6.38% after hours. I mean, it is what it is, dude. Companies got to do this, but yeah, this is it's definitely annoying. But if you believe in the long-term vision, then you believe they're going to use this 1.5 billion in the right way. That is pretty interesting, dude. Like the fact that they even asked that question. I mean, first of all, it's a reasonable question to ask because the stock has run up. But the fact that they asked it, I mean, you could tell Noto was prepared for it because he gave a very politician type of response. He made sure to play both sides, which this is why being a public CEO is like, it's scary, right? Because imagine he said no, like flat out, and then they did this. Like he could get sued, right? So you have to be so careful with what you say. And he said it the right way that we can explore opportunities. But then that final sentence, right now, we feel adequately well-funded on the balance sheet. That is what I think might have made some shareholders feel the opposite way based on what he said and then based on what he did after hours. I feel uncomfortable as a shareholder right now. I feel misled. I woke up at 5 a.m. to listen to the earnings and they didn't give an honest answer. Yeah, dude, if he said currently before the right now, dude, I just need one of these CEOs one day to say, well, currently right now. I just need that to happen. I need to see that happen. Rango says that's not nice at all. I don't even care if I'm down half, but that's so shady. Rango is literally the example that I pointed out about a shareholder who didn't own. I think Rango, you said that you bought today, right? If I'm not wrong, I think you said you bought a lot more shares today or you initiated a position today. Or no, you said you bought right at this. No, you said you bought at 22, I think, right before they announced the offering. Well, the point is he bought shares today and then this happens, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of people that bought shares today probably feel a bit annoyed that this happened. Okay, so the reason Grab recovered quickly after their offering is because remember, Grab's offering was different than SoFi's offering. Grab is borrowing 1.5 billion at 0% with a 40% premium to the shares. And they're essentially guaranteeing, hey, the stock's going to be 640 by the time we dilute you. So you shouldn't care because you'll make 40% of the shares. And number two, Grab's a much, smaller company in terms of the cash they have on the balance sheet. And as a result, they think there is a massive growth opportunity along with all the speculation of different rumors that there is for Grab to acquire. So Grab almost diluted with a call option at a 40% strike that to the current price, and Grab's shares don't dilute till 2030. So you would assume that by 2030 the shares will be above 640. With a mixed shelf offering like BMNR or SoFi, they dump it in the open market. So as soon as they dump it, the shares get diluted, right? And that's why I think Grab recovered more than SoFi, because the market was like, hey, it's 0% borrowing costs, which means the investors that gave it to you are pretty damn bullish that you're going to do something good with the money if they don't even want the interest on the cash. And then number two, the dilution doesn't happen for 5 years. And in 5 years, theoretically, the company should grow. And if the dilution does happen, it's at a 40% premium. So investors are like, all right, we're going to make 40%, right? And I think that's why the market didn't care that much about it. Amit, my son listened to you today in the car with me. Thinks you have a great sportcaster voice. I started laughing. I appreciate that, Jeff. That means a lot. In other words, I think he's saying I have a radio voice, which means, in other words, he just called me ugly. But that's okay. That's okay, because a sportscaster is something I always wanted to do. Well, actually, I wanted to always be a musician. That didn't work out. And so we ended up going down the the stock market sportscasting route. SoFi right here, down about 6.5%. Down about 6.5%. Tanner says, you can't say Noto played us. What do you mean Noto got diluted too? This pushes him further from his bonus. Exactly. So this is another reason why, although it feels shady and I know people feel pissed off, just like Tanner said on the phone, Noto wants 25 too. He gets paid, correct me if I'm wrong, $100 million if this thing is above 25, I think by July 2026. Sorry, June 2026. So even with this dilution or this potential dilution, Noto likely feels pretty confident that in a year, the stock's going to be above 25. Now, the hopes of this thing breaking out to 35 and 40, like some people were speculating, that seems to be a little hard to get to based on this news. But it doesn't mean they're not going to get to that $25 price that they want to get to. Which means long-term, you still be bullish. Matthias says he's still a mega millionaire without the bonus. He can have patience to execute. Yeah, I mean, look, that's the other thing about all these. See, that's the thing about these CEOs. I'm so happy you made that comment. I've been thinking about this a lot more. These CEOs are so unbelievably rich, like unbelievably rich, that the ones that are still motivated to give shareholder return, they have to be motivated by a different fire, right? Like Vlad's worth billions. Karp is worth billions. Like, so for them, Elon, 400 billion. But I think Vlad, Elon, Karp, Jensen, right? 120 billion. Like they still look like they're motivated to get the stock up because they believe so deeply in the ability for the company to execute. Noto's worth a couple $100 million before he joined SoFi, right? From Twitter, NFL, Goldman Sachs, all that stuff. So that's not to question his motivation, but that is to say maybe that same type of fire for immediate shareholder returns, which again, as I say this, SoFi went from 7 to 20. So it's not like he hasn't delivered shareholder returns. Might not be as extreme as the other guys. And that's okay. That just means that it's going to take time. And if you're long SoFi, then, you're on that journey for the long term as well. Musician, you can't even read sheet music. Dude. It was a really bad realization sophomore year when I realized I couldn't read sheet music. Like I was part of the school band. I was performing at the winter concert. I don't even know how I was playing the trumpet, bro. I was just pressing buttons because I definitely wasn't reading D flat, E minor. I don't know what the hell I was doing. But I would go to practice and I would be like acting like I knew what was happening. And then junior year, I was like, dude, I don't know how to read sheet music. I don't even know why I'm acting like I know how to read sheet music. This shit is a different language. And then I went all in on debate. And debate made more sense to me. But sheet music, I have so much respect for people that can freaking play piano. And yeah, literally I was mouthing the words in choir, exactly. For those that have never seen sheet music, it's this freaking shit. This shit, I have so much respect for people. Yes, I faked it for 2 years of high school, exactly, 9th and 10th grade. You can read this and then play music looking at this. I mean, congrats, dude. When I have kids, I want to make sure that they start with this because I think just being able to read sheet music makes you smarter. And my brain, I couldn't do it, bro. I just couldn't do it. I could not do it. Tony says I spent 20 years touring without being able to read sheet music. See, some people naturally have the talent, right? I really wanted to have the natural talent of music. It just wasn't in me. I had the ambition, but not the talent. It's always so sad, right? When you have the ambition to do something, but you just don't have the talent. Like you want to be great, and then you try to sing, and you sound so bad, and you try to read sheet music, and you're like, this is like, it's just like, and then people say, well, you're not working hard. It's like, no, dude, sometimes you just know you suck. And that's okay. Like sometimes you just suck. And you got to move on. All right, folks. I think that's it. Annoying for SoFi. I get it. But ultimately, if you're a long-term investor, it does not change the thesis. I'm going to bet it stays above 20 by the end of the year. I don't think this is enough to take it below 20. I think if it was going to go below 20, it would have happened by now. Now, granted, volume isn't that high after hours. So tomorrow morning, we're really going to see the impact of this. Is it annoying? Yes. Is it weird that Noto said we are fully capitalized and we don't need to think about this? Yes, but he did say we're going to be opportunistic. So it's not like he didn't officially or legally warn people that they could dilute. And as a result, it's just the nature of investing in a public company that might want to use public liquidity to deepen their moat. It's just that means share appreciation might take some time. So that's what we got on SoFi. The ripped part of the chair flaps when a Mick goes on a rant. Goodness gracious. It's also because I have the fan on right there. That's why it's flapping as well. All right, folks, that's it. I think that's it for me. I'm done. We'll not be back tonight. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow is such a big day. I can't even explain. It is going to be massive. Oh, Devin Ryan. I just got his SoFi report. Let me see if he increased his price target. He's going to be on the show on Thursday. Look at what he said. While we were anticipating a strong quarter from SoFi and thought there was more likely upside than not, it was an even better result than hoped for. He still has a market perform, though. Why doesn't he give them a price target, bro? That's so annoying. Hold on. Let me see if... Why is he not giving a price target? He didn't do that last time either. He'll be on the show. We're going to grill him on this, bro. On Thursday, we're going to grill him. He's like, yo, what's the price target, Brody? Like, what are you saying? No, he doesn't have a price target. Freaking 10-page report. Where's the price target? No, he doesn't have one. That's weird, bro. Put your name on it. Give us a price target. Give us a price target. He doesn't have one. He doesn't have one. maybe he knew they were going to do a shelf offering. He's like, I'm not going to give a price. Look, literally his price target is N and A. By the way, what does the N and A stand for? Whenever you see N and A, what the heck is it? Is it not something? What's the N and the A? Not applicable. Okay. There you go. Did anyone else wonder what the hell the N and the A stand? See, this is why Google's going to 300 share. Gemini in 2 seconds. In 2 seconds, you get the answer. Not emit. Yeah. Not applicable. Okay, so he doesn't put a price target, but he is pretty bullish on this. So, yeah, maybe he knew there was going to be a little bit of an offering and he didn't want to tell his clients that he thinks it's going to 35 because then they might buy it at 25. And then they're going to be like, Devin, what the hell, bro? You told me it was going to 35. I bought it at 24. Now it's at 20. So maybe there is a world that he kind of just left the price target out for a while. SoFi, $21 after hours, down about 6.25%. There you go. The chat is faster. That's true. You guys have given more answers than Gemini over the long term. That is fair. That is fair. All right, guys, I'm out. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll be back tomorrow on the market open, and we'll keep going from there. Tomorrow's a big day. JPow, Meta, Microsoft, Hoodie, Grab. I will not be live for Grab. I'll be live for Hood. I'm going to be in a WeWork in New York City. There will also be something else happening in New York City tomorrow that I think a lot of you guys will be very, 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 very excited about. I can't say what it is, but I think you guys will be really excited about it. You will find out tomorrow in New York City. And now that my Twitter is working, I will make sure I tweet about Grab, even though I won't be live tomorrow. And then tomorrow in the market open. We'll probably start the market open early tomorrow to give me some time to talk about everything. And we'll be live tomorrow, probably like 8:30-ish. And we'll go from there. It is not NYC Grinder Fest. It's going to be something you guys are. Let's just say when you guys see it, because you will see it tomorrow, you're going to be like, that's really cool. And the reason I'm going is because I got the opportunity and I was like, I got to do it. So you guys will see it tomorrow and I think you guys will enjoy. So that's it. All right. That's it for me. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow on the market open. Bye, everybody.